Welcome everyone to the June 24th regular meeting of council. I would like to call the meeting to order at 5:31 p.m. Deputy Mayor Moretti, could you please read the land acknowledgement?
Yes, I would like to acknowledge that the rural municipality of St. Andrews is located on Treaty One territory, the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji Cree, Dakota, and Dene people, and the national homeland of the Red River Métis. We respect the spirit and intent of treaties and treaty making and remain committed to working in partnership with First Nations, Inuit, Métis people in the spirit of truth, reconciliation, and collaboration.
Thank you. Item 3, adoption of the agenda. Be it resolved that council adopt the agenda as presented. Can I have a mover, please? Councilor Hunt, Councilor Slayton, seconds. All in favor?
Oh, you didn't ask any additions or. I'd like to ask that we remove. Which one was it here now? For the lagoon bylaw. To get more information on it. And the reason being, a lot of information is missing on it that we can, the debenture cost, the lifespan of the debenture, detailed operating. What number is that? All three. So, the report needs some more work, some more details, and, in the report, it said lifespan of 20 years for lagoon. That lagoon's gonna be well into 50 years. People look at the pictures of the new cells, of the new primary cells. So that has to be taken into account. So, it just needs to be reworked.
We've had discussion on this at least twice already, haven't we? On
Council's aware of this, yeah.
and the effective date of the resolution is, I think
Well,
it's July 1st.
One thing, the resolution is grossly wrong, but on that road.
There is a new resolution.
It wasn't for me pointing it out. I'm just saying, we need more information on it and to eliminate lots of discussion and it severely needs redoing and more information on it. Why those costs are there and replenishing the reserve after the debenture is paid off is what that utility would need, because it's got another 30 years of life or more. I got faith in the new maintenance of it. We got the boat, we got the equipment. It'll be maintained properly, which was the problem with the other one. It wasn't maintained. And look at Google Earth. This new cells now are 5 times as large as the new ones. So.
Well, we're basically dealing with the cost with all the information that's on there.
We don't have the cost for the information though, because we don't know what the difference from the debenture to the operating to how much money is going into replenishing the reserve.
There's no we discussed on this. Go ahead, Councilor.
So maybe we'll leave it on till we can have this open conversation and then it doesn't happen. We look for more information.
Oh, we need a table because the way the resolution read, it was going to be a 600% increase.
Okay, well, let's have a discussion about that so the taxpayers know that we're taking that into account.
Okay.
I'm sure everybody's getting calls about it.
Oh.
I got a couple.
Well, the worst thing is I get calls about it before we even know about it, because this stuff should come to us before it goes out to the public in an agenda, same as the shooting bylaw was. So that's why I'm trying to avoid this discussion and table it, but you want to go down that road, fine.
Well, we have had discussion.
We haven't had a discussion on the numbers. I'm not against the fee. I know we need an increase in tipping fees. That's a definite. The debenture has to be paid off. And the operating costs have to be covered. But as far as putting money back into the reserve of a 50-year lifespan in 20 years is building a reserve back up to where they are now.
Okay, well, we'll have this discussion, Councilor Secretary. We'll have this discussion when the matter is brought up. And then administration can see what council's looking for.
Councilor Munder has his hand raised.
Oh, Councilor Monder?
Hi, in the proposal, it talks about the building up of the reserve to 1.2 million by 2046, and also paying off the debenture. So I don't really know what we're tabling this for, because to me, it seems quite self-explanatory. We need to get this paid off in a timely manner, and putting this off for another month or two, I don't think is feasible. I think this needs to be addressed now. We're spending money on this lagoon almost all the time. We've spent on a trailer. We've spent it on on a drone. We need to start paying this off, not just sitting there collecting collecting interest on this. We need these tipping fees to be increased immediately to help us, the RM, become financially stable.
Okay, so we'll deal with this matter when it comes up to 12.3. Everybody, council's good with that? Okay. Okay, Councillor Hunt, moves like you're seconded, all in favor? Councilor Wonder, that is carried. Adoption of minutes. Be resolved, the council adopt the June 10th, 2025 council meeting minutes as presented. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Dornbos, seconder. Councillor Feeblecorn, any errors or omissions? All in favor? That is carried. Next one, June 16th. We resolve the council received the June 16th, 2025 committee of the whole meeting minutes as presented. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Feeblecorn, seconder. Deputy Mayor Marecki, any errors or omissions? All in favor? That is unanimous, it's carried. Reception of delegates. Welcome, Adam Prasnick from the St. Andrew Soccer Association. You're here to give a presentation.
Yes, ma'am.
Feel free to be seated.
Sounds good. Thank you, Joy. Thank you, council, for having me. My name is Adam Prasnick. I'm the director of the St. Andrew Soccer Association. I've been in my role since 2021. So we just completed our 5th season in my time. Just a quick, can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Just a quick about us. The St. Andrew Soccer Association is a volunteer-run, nonprofit organization that provides recreational programming in St. Andrews. Our primary focus is on soccer, but we also run a free drop-in flag football program in the summer. We are fully self-sustaining from program fees and receive no operating subsidies from any level of government. We maintain the current airport fields, which reduce the cost for the airport. We also save the municipality money, as typically in most communities, recreational program of this nature is subsidized or run by RM employees. We currently have 320 kids in soccer, and last year we had 56 children in flag football as well. So 376 children in our community. We are the largest recreational program by population in the RM of St. Andrews. Background. So the community rec soccer program has operated in St. Andrews since the 1970s, with different organizations administering it over that time. The community club ran it until 2015. Soccer has always been a profitable program for the club to run, but unfortunately, soccer program money often ended up subsidizing other elements of the community club. When there was financial issues at the club, the rec program transferred to being run by the Tri-S Soccer Club so that soccer wasn't starving for resources anymore. COVID pandemic caused financial issues for Tri-S, as little or no programming could run. Field maintenance expenses continued. This, as well as a loss of players to a paid skill development coach who started his own business and poached a number of players, left Tri-S unable to field teams. In 2021, with Tri-S no longer operating, the St. Andrews Soccer Association was established with the help of past Tri-S and St. Andrews Community Club conveners to continue their long-standing recreational program. With a focus on volunteering, efficiencies on the back end, and a goal of improving and growing the program we set out. Despite a first season that was interrupted by public health shutdown for 6 weeks, we managed to be one of the only communities that ran programming that year. Since then, as most of council has seen personally by attending our events, we have flourished. We have grown from 220 registrants in 2021 to 320 the past 2 years. We completed a building project at the fields to provide us on-site storage for field and training equipment, as well as a canteen. We have refurbished all our goals, invested in field improvements, training equipment, canteen improvements, event equipment, planted trees, and began hosting an annual tournament. We have expanded our programming options in soccer to keep more kids involved longer. And last year added additional sports to our offerings, that being the flag football and ultimate frisbee. So this brings us to where we are today. There's been long-standing field space issues and where we are today. The issue with our field space dates back to before the soccer program even began. In the early days of the RM owned the schools, which are the sites of the sports fields. When the province created the school division system in the 1960s, the RM was no longer responsible for the schools or, one second. The infrastructure was still in place, so it continued to be used for community sports. But as the community has grown, so has the demand for field spaces. The school division sites were still adequate for their own needs, but no longer suitable or large enough for the community recreation programs. The community club was running the program out of multiple facilities, St. Andrews School, Lockport School, Mapleton School, and the Croatian Community Club. But a significant portion was operating out of Lockport School in the early 2000s. In contrast, our neighboring communities such as Selkirk, Stonewall, and East Selkirk had all built proper facilities large enough for their community programs with the necessary sports fields. When St. Andrews needed to expand the lagoon behind Lockport School, they took a significant chunk of soccer fields there. This was recognized by the RM and the council at the time, and plans were put in motion to finally build a proper municipal recreation facility. There was a desire to build a large, well-planned out facility that would take years and large commitments to build. In the meantime, the fields at the airport were developed quickly as a temporary measure until the List Road site was developed for community recreation. Work continued and plans drawn up with consultants and the community organizations, with the RM even planting trees on site. Plans were moving ahead as far as I can tell until the election of 2018, when the mayor and council changed. All work seems to have stopped progressing at that time. When I became the head of the Soccer Association in 2021, I was informed of the situation, including that we have no regulation size fields for kids 13 and older. So many of the kids you see behind us. I began advocating to get the List Road project back on track with several members of this council before or immediately after the election of 2022. I've spoken to every member of council personally regarding these issues, so this should be a surprise to no one here at this table. Since day one of my tenure, the airport has been consistent that they would like to develop the land the soccer fields are on. They were only built as a temporary stopgap, and the airport needs to grow revenue by developing land to pay for necessary repairs and upgrades to the runways. Craig and Zach have been very easy to work with, and they've been very successful developing the space around our soccer fields. But the soccer fields have become the last chunk of developable space with roads servicing it. In March of this year, March 6th to be precise, we were informed by letter that our lease will not be renewed past the 2026 season. Where do we go from here? So we're at a crossroads with many possible directions to take. Sitting on our hands is no longer an option, as our volunteer-run community program is heading for a cliff at present. As we see it, there are 4 options. Option 1. First option would be to build a new park at List Road that could accommodate us with 4 full soccer fields with full access from April to August. In this option, we would need the RM to direct the airport to extend our lease until the new fields are ready. As was mentioned in our February meeting with the rec department and Mr. Bennett, the economic development officer, this is an expensive and long-term project with no current funding commitments. I believe the number thrown out by Teresa Howell was 8 to 10 million and an 8 to 10 year timeline. Would that be correct, Braden?
I can't recall what she said.
Okay, so that's what I had in my notes after the meeting. Option 2. The second option would be to build a new road at the airport to the south of the existing development towards Parkdale Road. This would unlock far more developable space than the soccer fields currently occupy, which would then allow us to complete our proposed expansion project from 2024. The airport benefits by more potential revenue off the increased developable lands, as well as off the new parking lot. This new parking lot being close to the terminals would have far more revenue potential than the baseball diamond parking lot. This would be the lowest cost option of the 3 permanent solutions, but it is not ideal as it makes the airport our permanent home. Option 3, purchase a piece of farmland more central in the RM. The airport is at the extreme south of the RM and not central for a lot of residents. As was brought up by Megan Shaw, the former recreation manager, we could pursue a $5 million grant with no municipal contribution required from Ducks Unlimited to build a retention pond which would provide us the fill build the soccer fields. It also, the new retention pond could be used as a canoe and kayak training center. Doing so provides the fill to build your sports fields much more cost effectively than trucking in the fill from other sites around the RM. This would be the most cost effective and result in a nicer overall park that is more accessible for more residents than the List Road site. Again, we need the council to direct the airport to extend our lease until the new fields are complete. This option came from suggestions made by Megan Shaw, the former recreation manager, as well as the lead consultant, Bob, can't remember his last name, from Scatliff, Murray and Murray, who is the lead consultant on our recreation master plan in 2022 and 2023. Option 4 would be to take time to consider all the options, but direct the airport to extend our airport lease. This is the least desirable outcome for anyone, but at least would give us a certainty past next season. As I've mentioned before, sharing field space with the private soccer academy will not work. We have overlapping seasons, and there's no way that we can both play on the same fields at the same time. Your facility is not large enough or designed to handle our program as either. Conclusion. I'm not trying to be adversarial in this, but we all need to work together or it will be the kids that you see behind me who will be suffering. The RM has known about this impending homeless situation for kids community soccer since at least March, yet it has yet to appear on a monthly management report since. We need the municipality to take the lead on this as recreation is a municipal responsibility. Again, we'd like to stress that we are a volunteer-run nonprofit organization. We are more than capable of maintaining a facility as we have done for the last 15 years. But as a community program, our goal has always been to keep fees to a minimum and in line with the other community soccer programs. Our fees have always been in line despite the other communities also subsidizing similar programs through field maintenance and line painting by municipal employees or by running the program altogether, such as in West St. Paul. We do not have the resources to complete a massive capital project on our own, nor should we be expected to if you look at any other community as an example. It seems that growth and development has become an increased priority of this council over the past few years, yet it has yet to take off. Communities in similar proximity to Winnipeg as us that are growing have all made significant investments in recreation to draw in more families. In West St. Paul, the Access Center, Mr. Olenek was a part of that construction, was a huge draw for development. That whole area went from being empty fields to being full of houses and businesses now. Same as the recreation campuses in Niverville, Steinbach, Lorette, Oakbank, and Stonewall. This isn't an overnight solution for St. Andrews, but a new park would set the groundwork for attracting similar new development and investment in a similar fashion. In closing, I'd like to stress the importance of our community soccer program. Many of you have had kids or grandkids play with us over the years. And Ken, you were even a coach, right?
Nice.
Yep. So you know the value of this, right? Soccer is a great way for kids to get some exercise, have some fun, and learn lifelong skills such as cooperation and teamwork. It's an affordable and accessible program for all members of the community. To lose it because developing a few more hangars at the airport is more of a priority would be a travesty and a real embarrassment for our whole community. Let's work together to turn this crisis into an opportunity to grow and strengthen St. Andrews. As a brief aside, tomorrow evening is our season windup at the airport soccer fields. If any of you are available to attend, you're welcome to. This is one of, if not the largest community event in our RM, and would be an ideal place to announce the RM's commitment to keeping our program operating past next season. Thank you for your time.
You've done a great job growing this soccer association. But as you know, we have a master rec plan. Discussion did take place, council supports recreation. And with the List Road project, there's 80 acres for development, AK soccer. Now, I've spoken, I don't understand why it will not work with AK soccer.
Because AK Soccer is a private business. They need to keep their fields running as full as they possibly can to maintain a profit.
But we have in the lease agreement, the council, in the agreement insisted, and it's in the signed agreement, that 20% field use for all residents in St. Andrews, which I've spoken to the owner yesterday. Tony would welcome this group with open arms to meet with them, but there's never been any contact with him.
So we actually, at the meeting that I had with Braden and Teresa Howell in February, I asked to be put in contact with them, and they told me they would, yet they haven't. But the reason we can't share field space is if they're having soccer games on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday nights, as they do, and we have games on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday nights, as we do, you cannot have 4 teams playing a game on the same field at the same time. Their fields are going to be full, and our fields, we require full field equivalent to make our program run. They only have 3 there. How are they going to give us programming time when their fields are in use?
You know, I spoke to him yesterday, he's willing to work with you, but again, he's never heard from you.
Again, the issue is that you cannot have 2 soccer games from 2 different organizations on the same field at the same time.
But if you haven't spoken to him, how do you know his schedule?
It's available online, ma'am. Yep.
Because our admin is going to be seeking alternate sites. Temporarily, the short-term fix. Because I seem to recall last term, the original plan was going to be soccer and baseball fields next on that rec plan.
Okay, so that's all great. That is option 1, that the park, the municipality builds us the park with proper sports fields. But as we've seen at the List Road site that began under construction last year and was not ready for play, it takes more than 1 year to build public soccer fields. We have no lease past next year. Need certainty that we will have field space beyond next season until the new park is going. We can't go off a cliff and have no community soccer in our community for 1, 2, 3, 4, however many years. Those are these kids who are suffering, missing out on programming.
Well, I know the kids are most important. I mean, we don't want them to suffer. But
I hope so.
up until, okay. The lease expires with the airport at the end of your season in 2026.
So 1 year.
So we have till 2027 to have field.
So in order for us to have fields in 2027, we need to get off the ground right now. You can't wait another year until our lease is over at the
I
airport.
know that,
To
that's what you're
start.
looking at sites.
I know.
Just like her.
I just have a couple questions.
Yep.
So you're talking about that you're the soccer for the RM. My understanding, Clandeboye has their own soccer association and so does Peters.
Well,
Not correct?
Clandeboye and Petersfield operate under the Clandeboye and District Recreation Association, so they are the same program. Justin's kids play there.
It's not about making this personal to whose family. I mean, you're making it sound like you're the only organization in the RM.
Oh, and South St.
Like
Andrews.
2 other organizations that do play recreational soccer.
One other, yes, but
There's
again,
a field in Clandeboye and there's a field in Petersfield. I went to check on both of them and I watched kids play.
yep, they're
What age group is this?
Yep.
Only the kids from the north.
Yep.
So you're looking for a field for the kids from the south, South St. Andrews.
Yep.
That's basically what you're looking for the RM to help with.
yeah,
And
we.
the other 2 organizations, they're not here, they're not asking us for anything.
Well, it's one organization to be clear. It's the Clandeboye and District Recreation Association. We deal with Chris Castlake is the president of that.
I know.
We deal with him regularly. It is one organization, not 2. But again, if the North can have a public soccer program, why can the majority of the residents who live in the South? Why are their kids suffering because we do not?
So you would like to see the RM take back the South St. Andrews program? Would that make it easier?
I would like to continue operating it in the best interest of the children. But if that's the route you want to go, that is totally fine. We will hand over the keys and let you do all the work and increase the cost for the RM. Yep. There's not a lot of RMs pushing volunteers.
No, I love the program. You've done a great job on it.
Thank you.
I coached 8U, 10U,
Yep.
6U. I coached with Manny and Duveas and the whole work, so it was great. I really had a great time. My kids love the sports. I like sports. And I think we do need to do something as RM for you, but, and I'll just be blunt, the RM doesn't have a lot of money to put in, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 fields.
Yep.
So how does that look when you put all that investment in? And then because there's more to the St. Andrews than just South St. Andrews. There's North St. Andrews too, right?
Yep.
So if you're gonna ask taxpayers to put that money in, how is that fair for the people in the north to pay for the people in the south? And this is the kind of balance that you have to look at every once in a while too, right? But again, love the program. You've done a great job. I was on a volleyball board for 20 years. Started with 72 teams and we increased it to 152 teams. And in that time, we used River East Transcona School Division schools. But at no point in time did we ask River East Transcona School Division to find us gyms. So some of the responsibility also has to be on the soccer association to say, hey, what else can we do to find other fields? Does that make any sense?
I
And
don't.
I don't want to put a whole bunch of pressure on you, but I'm just,
I
the reality
don't.
of it is when you grow substantially, then you have to find the field space to fill it, right? So
We're not asking for entirely new field space. We're asking to be not evicted from our current field space. The RM has the ability to direct the airport to extend our lease until new fields are ready. That's the reality of the situation.
Actually, the airport is a separate board.
Yeah, I'm not on the airport board, so I can't do that.
The RM has the ability to send direction to the airport so that they can extend our lease so that we don't end up without a community soccer program in South St. Andrews. From Zach, from Russ Paradowski, been around. But the reality is we need a guarantee past next season. So if you'd like to commit to building Bliss Road, that was one of the options that we presented today. That is fantastic, but Bliss Road is not going to be built overnight. And we need an extension on our lease to provide certainty. We're not asking for entire new field space. If we were stuck on the current field space, we'd be fine with that and make it work. But the reality is we've been asked to leave by a municipal directed corporation.
no.
Oh, no.
It's not a municipal directed corporation.
No, the airport was basically, Rob and I are in the airport board, but the airport management group decides what happens in the airport. That's their, we don't do the operations of the airport.
So how many people are on the board?
1, 2, 6 of us, 7 of us, here's 7.
I don't know
Gonna
how
get
that's
them.
relevant. There's
But
things that you're a separate board.
So with
So
your 2 votes plus Ross Baradowski, who is a big supporter of recreation, possibly Zachary Holden, we
Zach
could,
doesn't have a vote.
okay. But anyways, you can, with your influence on that board, help them extend the lease. But you're saying the priority is building more hangars at the airport than all these children sitting behind you.
Well, I don't want you to put the children against
Yeah.
development.
We're not trying to be adversarial. We are trying to get everything. We just want certainty past this coming season, and we do not have it. The RM has had known about this since March. It is yet to appear on a single monthly management report for March, April, May. So your suggestion that the RM is looking into other options isn't backed up by documentation, Mayor.
I'll just like her.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and I am a big supporter, right? I love what y'all do and I get the point to all of it. Believe me, I do. But I thought the very first time you and I talked, you had told me that the airport renewed your thing on a yearly basis for $1 a year.
Yep.
So the airport has expanded, that's what they tell me anyways, I'm not on part of the airport. And it's going to continue to expand to bring more revenue into the RM.
As they should.
So how come 3 years ago running on a yearly year by year renewal was fine and now all of a sudden because they've said no, or they've given you an end date?
Exactly.
But did you always think you were going to get the airport? Like, where did you get that assumption that it would always be there for you?
So when I had my conversations with Mr. Skonberg, Craig, the former airport manager, when I took over, he said it's a year-to-year lease, but
Mhm.
that's how it's always been done and it always will be done going forward. But now we have a letter from the airport board saying it will not be renewed past 2026. So we are heading into next season on a cliff, not knowing if we will have a community soccer program for 2027. That is why we are here, trying to get the RMM to move, because fields cannot be built overnight. And we cannot go a year without fields. So we need to extend the airport lease or get something in motion now so that fields are ready in 2027. If that is a possibility, and if not, extend our airport lease going forward so that we have certainty.
We'll have to get an airport board decision. Councillor Hunt.
So you've heard me say when we talked about this in AK soccer that I support you guys 150%. And I'd be the first one to put out my hand to put money into AK into doing the fields there. But until you've talked to him, I don't see how you can, like, and I understand what you're saying. He said, she said, you don't have the phone number. Talk to him.
Okay, but it
See-
still comes down to field space at the same time. You cannot hold two different soccer.
Like an arena, you can't hold 4 hockey games in an arena. There's planning and there's giving on both sides. But until you do that,
But we both have league commitments, sir.
talk to him first.
And there's.
You can make the argument, I understand what you're saying, and I'm in support of it. I'd be first one to put up my hand of tens of thousands of dollars for rent and to build more fields. Like, who knows more to build a field and to cut it and to maintain it and to market than him?
And
You know, so
20%
we would ask him to build fields for us. But I understand what you're saying, we need him ASAP, but in saying that, so next year is a compromise between the two of you on a transition.
Because he's legally obligated to give you 20% of the time.
20% of time
understand.
when when their fields are not adequate for our program, 20% of that is less than we.
But Adam, you haven't talked to him. And your program runs when? April to June, middle of 2 months.
April to August, we run summer programming as well, as you mentioned, as if you had been listening to my presentation, you would have heard, ma'am.
Well, I have it down here, but we're only informed about soccer runs from, we're advised, April to middle of June.
Our league programming, yes, but as you heard, last year we added flag football and ultimate frisbee as free drop-in programs that were attended by, it was around 56 kids for flag football, and I think we had 18 at ultimate frisbee.
For me personally, it's the first time I've ever heard of it. He's right now. Councillor Sliker. Oh,
Councillor
Chris.
as well.
Let him go. Yeah.
Go ahead, Councillor Mondar.
Yeah, hi. I think we're trying to be painted here a rather poor brush here. This has been on the priority list for this council since we got there. We have advocated for recreation in our community. We have spent money on a baseball diamond that is going to be finished by the end of this year. We have given money to almost every single recreation center in our municipality. We have undertaken the AK soccer thing where we put out tenders for people to come to the community and put proposals forth. AK soccer came, and one of the first things that this council said to this entity was, we need soccer space for the South St. Andrews Soccer Association. So to basically say that we have not had this in the forefront of our minds since we have been voted into council is completely wrong. We have talked about this at length, and we have talked to Tony at the AK Soccer Academy in regards to this, and we are all hoping that you can work with the AK Soccer Academy and find field space and work collaboratively together in this endeavor till we find potentially another solution. You also mentioned that you have 2 other programs running for basically 50 kids or under. I think those 50 kids or under could be entertained on another field. If this field is till next year, we have another year to figure out a field for the flag football, for the ultimate for the ultimate frisbee. But the soccer association runs from basically April till the middle of June. I don't see there being a problem with the AK soccer. And we have broached this subject with AK soccer, and he is more than willing to work with you. We need you to go there and advocate for South St. Andrews and work something out. You talk about working collaboratively with people. That's what we need you to do.
So as we've, in regards to the AK situation with your mention of public access, there's a difference between access and meaningful access. As an example, I'll give you one of my favorite follows on social media is the Selena 52 Diner. It's a complete joke account about a truck stop in Tennessee. But one of their policies they always post is kids eat free 2 to 4 a.m. So there's a difference between access and meaningful access. Sure, kids can eat free 2 to 4 a.m. But which kids are going to eat 2 to 4 a.m.? The reality is they have three full field equivalents, and you guarantee 20%, which is 0.6 of a field. If they play games the same times as we do, which is April to June, they will be on those fields. Their priority will be making money for their business. They will not give us field time when they're actively having a soccer game, and we need those fields full time. We have multiple teams in every age group. We play 6:30, 7:30. We have home games every single night of the week. It will not work. It's just simple understanding. I've run this program for 5 years. I have a little bit of expertise in this, I'd like to think. It's just not a workable solution. So we do need proper municipal fields built. We're not.
Sorry, we understand your point, but some of your comments, I don't know how you could make them without having talked to him. I talked to him yesterday. He is more than willing to welcome you with open arms and work together.
Same thing. Why hasn't he reached out to me?
That guy's a crook. Tony's a crook.
Sorry, this isn't a public hearing. Councillor Sliker, do you have a comment? Did you ever hand up?
I did. I get where you go. I get what you want. Also get the feeling you don't want to have anything to do with AK soccer. And you've kind of told me that a few times. But that aside, Adam, I think it goes back to exactly what Councilor Mondor said. When we entered into this agreement with AK soccer, that was that your organization was the #1 thing on the map. So if you haven't talked to him, you really don't have a right to sit here and quote how he's going to do his stuff. Because I don't know what he's done because I haven't talked to him. You don't know whether he has come to the RM and maybe between all three of us, we can make an extra couple of fields for you to play on. That would just be yours. But you don't know any of that because you haven't talked to him.
That's what we're
You've
asking
made
you
your-
to do.
You've
Build
made
us
your
those
own
fields.
decision that you don't want to cooperate with AK soccer. That is the impression I'm getting.
I'm a realist. I understand how field space usage works. Tony runs programming Monday through Thursday when our fields are in use. You cannot have multiple teams playing games from different organizations on the same field at the same time.
And you,
As Lori mentioned, it'd be like the Manitoba Moose, well, in a hockey term, it'd be like scheduling a Winnipeg Jets game on the same time rink at the same time as a Manitoba Moose game. You're not going to have 4 teams out there playing on the same surface, 2 different games. It's just not a workable situation.
Councilor Mondor? Go
But
ahead.
you seem to be under the impression that only one field. If you look at the rendering for AK soccer, there's more than one field. That's why we need you to go and talk to him and work something out. I think there's 4 fields there. He's not going to be running his program on all 4 fields at the same time.
Correction with
We have poor conduct in council. We know what you want, Adam. We recommend you go speak to Tony. Our administration will be looking at alternate sites, and then council will be forwarded a report with different alternate sites. If you know of an alternate site, please feel free to let council know.
So
Or
We can buy it
administration.
ourselves.
So when can we expect any action on this.
I think the action that you, the Bolton report. You have to move on something.
Adam, just wanted the request to talk to Tony. Move forward.
Yeah, thank you, thank you.
We know
Days a week.
We all
the answer.
We all know the answer.
We know the answer.
We got your back.
They want their semantics
We all
and
know
their
the
stance.
answer.
Public with the next vote.
How many came in delegation? It was last 10 minutes.
Thanks for all your help. Yeah, good work, guys.
Remember when you told me in the email last week to buy the land myself?
You did, sir, ma'am, yeah.
I've never.
Joy, you personally emailed me last week and said, buy the land myself.
Really?
I
Good job, Joy.
His name is Mr. Ryan Berry, and I,
Oh, you're Domino Pizza, right?
that email was forwarded to me, ma'am.
I didn't tell anybody.
I can read it out if you'd like.
Let's do it.
Please do so.
Let's do it. I wanna hear this.
Yeah, we're gonna have order in here.
Okay.
Want me to read the email?
Now we do.
Guys, seriously.
Sure, go ahead, read the email because I
Want me
don't.
to read it?
Yeah, she said she does. She wants to. Yes, please.
Hi, Ryan. Apologies for the late reply. However, as indicated in our phone conversation, my schedule is quite hectic. Soccer falls under our rec department. Our rec director is back in the office on Monday, so I'm unable to answer some of your questions. As the soccer association is a private business, perhaps you could be seeking out alternative locations as well. In here, where is it?
Again, we are a volunteer-run nonprofit organization, so I'd appreciate if you stop spreading that misinformation, Mayor.
I'm not spreading any misinformation. That.
You just wrote it.
You just said it's a
Well, I
private
just told
business
you
of mine.
Because that's what we've been told. It's been brought up by other
Mayor,
council members.
We've discussed this many times, and you came and took a photo op with me to take credit for our building projects when the province kicked in half the money and the municipality kicked in none. Now, if you know anything about provincial grants, you know they don't give them to private businesses for anything. Like, this was because we are a nonprofit. You know better than that to spread misinformation about.
I'm not. That is the.
Adam, just need to be better. Yeah, please.
This thing doesn't need to be better.
Mr. Barry,
Yes,
you're gonna make an accusation. Where did I say that you're gonna go buy land?
when you said we should seek out the land ourselves.
Well, that's not telling you to go buy land and seeking out, come up with locations for
Well,
the RM to
you're
live in.
suggesting it.
Come up with the locations that the RM to assist administration for ideas of what you're looking for.
No,
Because that's the intention. I never told you to go buy
be
land.
more clear.
As we stated, our intent is not to be
Anyway,
adversarial. We are
We know
only
what you're looking for.
looking for certainty.
Delegation time is 10 minutes until this crowd's gonna start getting out of control. So we're well past, we're over half an hour for the delegation. So I want to thank you for coming here. And we've taken all your comments into consideration.
Sure doesn't feel like it. It sounds like it.
Will the RM help find field and fund field? Could we?
You said that right from the beginning. Any ideas?
Will the RM
We are looking for, I said, we're looking at renting for Selkirk temporary. We're looking at West St. Paul. We're looking in the area.
So what? Aside, West St. Paul last year, the soccer program was full because we ended up with a number of kids coming from West St. Paul. So they need additional field space as well that they're in the.
Yeah, and we don't know that because.
But then you're suggesting that we can go to West St. Paul when you don't have the background
Well,
information that you.
ideas where we can look at. The bottom line here is recreation is important. We've got a master plan. The airport, you always knew was a temporary location. They have asked you to go vacate. They've given you plenty of time. So we just don't go overnight and set something up. Because you had that letter in March and this all started, I had no idea until Mr. Berry called me quite angrily last week.
Excuse me, quite angrily. I was trying to have a conversation with you.
And we had a conversation, but you were also providing false and misinformation.
And as you
That's
asked,
an accusation.
but
What was?
Take down.
but you asked us.
Control or they come back.
Take a break,
It's
take a break, finish.
Can I just finish
On
that?
a break? Okay, well, maybe you discuss it for 10 minutes.
Take a break for 10 minutes, if they're face it, for a minute, okay?
So we.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, I want to remind everyone, we have rules, we need order. And Adam is the spokesperson. As per our bylaw, delegation is 10 minutes. We've offered you a lot more, given you a lot more ample time. So we listened to your comments, but strongly urge you to contact AK Soccer. But in the meantime, you're rolling your eyes isn't helping anything.
It's like you didn't listen to a thing I said. You can't have two different games on the same field at the same time.
You heard that. Administration will put together some proposals within the next couple months, and then it will be brought forward to council for discussion.
So, I just want to put one aside out there. Just before the end, you put it on us saying, why didn't you contact us in the last 3 months since we received this notification? We did. We forwarded it to you, yourself, and a few other council members. But we gave you guys the time to do something. The rec department has known about this since before it happened, like since March 6th for sure. Yet it is yet to appear on monthly management reports that listed every minute detail they worked on. Yet there was not a single mention of this. So
That's fair.
That's fair.
Okay, so we'll bring it to that attention.
what is a reasonable timeline to expect further action on this? Because we can't sit on our hands. We need to get.
The staff holidays and everything else within the next couple months. Because this isn't gonna happen overnight. Which you yourself admitted.
That's why we're here early, right?
But, okay?
Yep.
So again, thank you all. Thank you for your attendance and thank you for your presentation. Okay, next
See you
item.
tomorrow.
Item-
See you tomorrow.
Yeah, see you tomorrow. And yeah, you're all welcome to come out. It's a fantastic event. You get to meet between 800 and 1,000 of our most active best residents. So I really hope you all come out and see fantastic event. So
Good job.
Thank you.
Reports, everybody, thank you for submitting your report. Does anybody have any questions? Okay,
I just have some comments.
you'll be in the mornings. Not the end of this. I just want to point a quick aside. Just point out to me, this doesn't look good on any of us, but
I'm sorry, but the presentation.
fair enough. It's the RM it looks bad on, not the soccer.
I have from the FCM conference, I have some information to hand out to administration. Can go through it and see which departments may be interested in something. Someone from fire for free training. One I brought back before is a camera or microphone or air quality test. It goes in a street light, can be moved around. Anyway, just some other information, planters, park information, all kinds of good information that managers can look at. Great report on the State of the Union speech. We had talked about the last meeting about you showing us your speech. And you said if I didn't, whatever, we talked about it at the open house, and you said bring it up at council, so.
Well, because I said I'm not going back to the last term with group 5, and if when
Okay,
you're the
well-
mayor, you can do whatever speech you want.
Okay, go ahead. You gotta stop living in the past. You had a great speech, and what you care for is daycare, Captain Kennedy House, the Markinson, St. Andrews curbside pickup, water from St. Clements, Okamic. All of us have different things that we like, and it's to add to the speech is to make it as a team. There was, the housing development passed places for people to grow in St. Andrews. We lowered our mill rate from 10.9 to 8.96. Ice fishing in Matlock. You talked about Okamic Marsh. Ice fishing in Matlock is so popular. Baseball field at the airport, St. Andrews Rectory. St. Andrews Airport being the 15th busiest in Canada. You had a great report, but we all should be able to add to it and see what you're saying. Stop living in the past and saying.
Next year, we'll call on you to do the State of the Region address or whatever council member wants to.
You're missing the point as a team. I'm trying to promote teamwork here and stop living in the past. You said that at the thing. The past is the past, work towards the future and focus on the present.
Well,
and
there
creating a better
was one
future.
other get input from all of their councils to give the speech. Counselor, Dornbos gave speeches when I was in hospital. Deputy Mayor Marecki gave speeches. Did you ask them ahead of time for their speeches?
This is State of the Union that is in the record, Selkirk record, and it's great advertising for St. Andrews. All I'm trying to promote is teamwork. I'm trying to make a point. You had a great speech, and it's stuff that you like and others like too. But I'm saying add stuff to it that we could have added. Ice fishing in Matlock, probably one of the biggest areas across Canada that people come to Matlock to fish. 15th busiest airport in Canada. That's something to
Given
brag
the
about.
airport, the same speech, the same people there. I've given that airport. It's the 9th busiest airport in Canada. I've given that in every speech I've
Anyway,
given for so long.
Thank you for your time. It was a great report. I'm just saying, we all work together as a team. It doesn't hurt to get input from us on these situations. That's all I'm
I'll
saying.
on you to give the next.
You're missing the point, and that's being sarcastic and actually rude. I'm trying to make a point. I'm trying to give you a kudo, and you're not going
Well, it
with it.
doesn't sound like a kudo. Bylaws and policies, we have none. Approval of accounts. Be resolved by council approve the June 20th, 25 check detail report as presented. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Dornbos, seconded by Councillor Deputy Mayor Marecki. Any comments or questions? All in favor? That matter is carried unanimously. Correspondence for action. Oh, I think, sorry, 9.1 audited financial statements. There's no resolution attached to that, Lisa. Oh, yes, there is. My apologies. Be resolved, the council hereby received the St. Andrews Airport Inc. December 31st, 2024 audited financial statements as presented. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Dornbos, seconder. Councillor Feeble-Corn, are there any questions? Comments? All in favor? That is unanimous, that is carried. National Indigenous Peoples Day celebration. Be it resolved that Mayor Sewell be authorized to have attended the Manitoba Métis Federation celebration of National Indigenous Peoples Day, which took place on June 21st, 2025 in Selkirk. Could I have a move, please? Deputy Mayor Marecki, Councillor Feeble-Corn seconds. All in favor? That is carried. 9.3 John Q. Water quality. Be it resolved that be authorized to attend a meeting being hosted by John Q. on water quality innovation for communities, which is being held July 24th in Winnipeg. Who would like to attend? Okay, so then table for information.
I am, because I'm on.
Well, you're a board member. Okay, so Deputy Mayor Marecki and Councillor Slaker, I'll just put your name on here with the address on who's attending. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Dornbos, seconder. Councillor Mondor. All in favor? That is carried unanimous. Correspondence for information. Does anybody have any questions or comments on the attachments?
I do.
Councillor Dornbos?
About the response letter that Councillor Feeble-Corn had gotten from Lisa Naylor. Do we, so thank you, thanks for sending that out. I think it was a great thing, and the response was quite quick. I guess we don't know what any type of timeline is. Oh, right.
Well, I think maybe Council Feeble-Corn we met with some administration from the Highways Department, and Mayor, it was Council Feeble-Corn's letter that prompted that. Maybe he could just give a brief synopsis of the meeting, which I thought was very positive.
Yeah, it was a great meeting with the department that the honorable
It was deputy minister.
That was set up. We spoke about the concerns with Highway 867 that also expanded into 67 and 230, and just some of the dangerous intersections in our RM. They are actively looking at short-term, kind of midterm and long-term solutions for specifically Highway 8 and 67. Waiting kind of for an official response, just to kind of provide us what that's going to look like and what some of the options are. They indicated there could be a potential pilot project that they haven't done before that they're looking to possibly implement that would identify vehicles that are waiting to cross, that would notify drivers on Highway 8. Some newer technology that they're looking, again, just kind of some options that are on the table, but we're waiting for an official response back from that department. And yeah, we're looking forward for some quick immediate responses, which would be some rumble strips on 67 that have been faded away, some better lighting for the stop signs that are there.
There's brighter lights available.
Yeah, maybe some brighter lights available, delineators on Highway 8 to allow drivers, again, this is their research that says it provides drivers on 67 a better gauge of kind of how fast vehicles are approaching on the highway to make better decisions to cross. So again, hopeful that we don't see another severe, horrible accident there. And I'm hopeful that this kind of this initiation here that we've taken is going to save lives. That's the whole point.
Yeah, I know that this hit you hard because you were actually there, pretty much first responder as a civilian. So I'm really happy to see that this came so quickly.
And they're hoping the rumble strips and the lights, that was gonna be by the end of July.
Okay.
But it has to go through so many departments.
Right.
Madam Mayor, Councillor Mondor.
Oh, Councillor Mondar?
Yes, hi. I was just wondering if it takes a death to add for the RM to advocate for a road. I've been trying to advocate for the safety concerns on River Road, where all my residents and many of the wards have been trying to advocate for years. Yet there's been no forthcoming from the RM. I wrote an email that I got chastised for 3 years ago in regards to the safety of the River Road. Does it take a death on River Road before the RM reaches out to this provincial government and tries to advocate for that road? And I've also sent emails, I believe, to Justin in regards to this, and Deputy Mayor Marecki in years previous. When you did talk to the minister, I asked if you could advocate for River Road as well. Like, I think you guys have lost the aspect here of working for the whole community. It's not just one road. It's working, I can see the benefits of 67 and 230 there. I see that the safety concerns, but there's also other safety concerns that are just as pressing. Just, there hasn't been a death there.
Councillor Fiebelkorn?
I'm not debating on the severeness of one road versus the other. If I was to talk about our entire hour conversation, then yes, River Road was also mentioned there was multiple roads that were discussed. Specifically, this was about Highway 867. So I can tell you that they are looking into many of the roads within the province, and they have a priority system. The amount of deaths that happen and the intersections that are at most risk, again, this is their research and their priority system. This would have come to the forefront at some point anyway, because every death that happens on a Manitoba highway gets reviewed by MTI. So this just happened to be a response that we put out, and they already knew about this intersection and it was on the radar. Now we're implementing some short-term, immediate safety enhancements to this intersection. Again, we've talked about River Road many times. We've talked about it with the RCP when they come here, right? Like, River Road isn't an unknown. We all know that there's safety concerns there. So I'm not trying to say that one intersection is more important than another area.
But it also seems like it needs a death before something happens. I'm telling you, River Road, there's been so many close calls on River Road that it's just a masterful divine intervention that there hasn't been a death there yet. We are we need to be proactive on these things, not reactive.
Yeah, but as the deputy minister explained, and there was another engineer here. You know how many roads there are in Manitoba? And they have to go, like I just explained it perfectly. And River Road did come up, number 9 came up. But again, there's thousands of roads in Manitoba.
Yes, but we are St. Andrews. Like you said, time before, Mayor, South St. Andrews River Road is like the Wellington Crescent of St. Andrews. We should be doing everything to preserve that, to make it as safe as possible for residents, for people that come, for tourists that spend money in our RM.
I don't know why you're trying to argue with us, Chris. We agree with you.
I'm not
We're
trying
on
to
the same
argue.
page.
I'm trying to advocate for a river road as well.
Yeah,
And I think this was the perfect opportunity to bring up River Road and some of the concerns that I have brought up for 3 years.
And it was. Any other questions on the information? Okay. Number 11, old unfinished business, Riverview building renovations. Okay, go ahead, please. Item 11.1.
Yep. So the last incident we had with flooding, we have to pay a 10% deductibles. So we paid over $90,000 for deductible, and the province had put out an agreement with the RMs that if you'll move forward and use the money for emergency services, we'll give you your deductible back, but it has to be used for that. So we have the Riverview building in South St. Andrews that nobody is using right now. It's run down. It needs some work. Nobody's in there. The only ones using it right now is the Ukrainian dancers for storage of costumes. And we're looking to take that almost $100,000 and put it into that building and put some the bylaw group in there and the safety group in there. We want to put some of the rec staff in there, so we have a presence in South St. Andrews. We could also open up maybe one day a week for residents of St. Andrews, from South St. Andrews for access. We could use it at tax time, so bills can be paid there. But in saying all that, if there was an emergency in South St. Andrews, the building would be dedicated to the emergency operations room. So they have that in other locations too. So the regular employees would be moved out of the building. It becomes a headquarters for emergency services. So before we do that, we're looking for council's direction on this policy if they feel that's acceptable. And I also add in the Selkirk Community Fund, I believe I seen Rossdale got $2,000 for storage and costumes. So I'm pretty sure that they're looking for another place, or we can also help them out for a short term, looking for a space to move their costumes.
Councillor Sliker.
Didn't we do all this in the budget?
Yeah, but
This is all,
this is where, you know, we formally would notify them what we need the space, and formally for the community that we're saying we're doing this, so we're transparent and everybody knows.
thank you.
Any further questions?
Madam Mayor, I believe there is a resolution, but it hasn't been put.
Okay.
You wouldn't have it?
No, could you please read it, Lisa?
Whereas the municipal building at 6 Riverview is currently being used solely for storage of the Rossdale Ukrainian Dance School costumes, and whereas the rural municipality of St. Andrews has been given back the deductible for the 2022 spring flood by Manitoba Emergency Management Organization to convert the building at 6 Riverview into an all hazards emergency operations center. And whereas the RM's workforce has grown beyond the capacity of the Clandeboye building, and the municipal safety program would be more efficient and effective and efficient, being located in South St. Andrews. Therefore, be it resolved that council approve the proposed use of the building at 6 Riverview to house the Municipal Safety Program, EOC, and additional staff.
Thank you. Could I have a mover, please? Counselor Dornbos, seconder. Counselor Mondor. Any other comments? All in favor? That is unanimous. It is carried. No, he did no. It's a delayed reaction on the screen. 11.2 Selkirk Biz membership. Be resolved that council agrees to remain as a member of the Selkirk District Chamber of Commerce and authorize payment of the annual Selkirk Biz membership fees, Lisa, of $300. I've added that in. Could I have a mover, please? Counselor Dornbos, seconder. Counselor Hunt. Just so council's aware, I was sent the invoice for payment because we never included, this wasn't included in the budget. Because I think Brett Mitchell stepped back up as past president. There's nobody there.
There's no.
There's no one running it. There's no
Yeah,
committee.
the director girl, wait.
Yeah, the executive director. So what is council's wish? Did you want to stay a member of this or Counselor Hunt?
Well, they just did the State of the Union as well as they do Selkirk Parade, and for $300, like I say, it's why not let them get off the ground and get back in order? They've been a good organization for many years. They run the Black Friday program. They run the Selkirk Business Bucks. So,
But the situation is there's no one there.
well, and if we take money away from them, then there'll never be any money there. So give them a chance. And if there's nobody there next year, then that's a different conversation.
What is council's wish?
Staying.
I'm okay with it staying in. Yeah, it's such a small amount of money. Yeah. See what happens for a year. And then if it doesn't work out,
Well, it's sort of been the same status since last year too.
And we were members last year though.
Yeah, but if they're in the same boat. Well, they did hire an executive director, but she wasn't there very long. She left.
I'm okay.
Okay, Council Mondart, any comments?
I'm okay with giving the $300 and like Councillor Dornbos suggested, we see how it works out.
Okay, so all in favor? That's carried unanimously. New business. July and August committee of the whole meetings. Sorry.
We met 10.5 or did I get thrown out?
10.5 fire department branding.
Oh, yeah, because I asked if anybody correspondence for information, if anybody had.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The other thing brought up.
What is that about?
Was if anybody had any comments about the correspondence for information.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Can
Do you
I
have
ask
no
what that's
comments?
about? Yeah, I would like to know what that's about, 10.5.
The logo.
Well, who is speaking to that? Because I know the chiefs made a decision on the logo. Council unanimously agreed to it, so a petition. I was served with a petition. The petition did read though for all 3 fire halls, but I've been advised South Hall was never contacted with it. The only members that signed were Matt Hawk and Clan. So
So they're looking
There
to
was-
have it redone, is that what they are looking to do?
oh, what does the petition say?
Yeah.
To do with the logo,
They
right,
want
the
to
new
rebrand
logo,
it.
Smart pause the original implementation.
and let's have a revisit. I would kind of be in favor of that. May I say one more thing? This is the kind of thing that I would kind of agree with where Councillor Hunt went today about the lagoons and different things, but sometimes I do think there are some things that I would like to see come to council. Like, I would have liked to have seen that logo before it moved out to everywhere. Things like that. I don't know how that structure's in the RM, but so Councillor Hunt says the lagoon thing. I didn't there was, just concern about the logo because then the firearm thing, like it boom, boom, it just dropped.
But we brought the logo to council.
There was all different logos.
We brought the logo to council and council voted.
But council didn't get saying what the logo was, it was presented
Well, then-
to us
then you
that it
shouldn't
was the
vote.
logo.
And we're not on the fire department. The fire chiefs are in charge of the fire
The fire
department.
chiefs agreed to it, that's why we brought it. There was a vote, so if you want more discussion or you didn't feel you could participate, you could vote against it. And for the lagoon, we've talked about the lagoon, and when do we actually get to bring the lagoon? To discuss on the lagoon, we'll get there later tonight, but we have a over $800,000 loan.
No, I get that.
There's not much to discuss. We have bills to pay.
But we'll discuss,
guess
we'll
what-
stay with the fire department.
Okay, so what I guess with the logo, and I did show it to you later, I've never paid attention to the fire logo until it was presented to us. The following week I go outside, cause I was under the impression it was based off of the thing on the building here. Well, the thing on the building is completely different from what was shown to us. Like completely different.
I think it's based off of the church in St. Andrews.
No, Jordan said that he built it basically off of the logo that's on the Clandeboye Fire Hall. Remember, I went and took a picture and I showed you, I said, it doesn't look anything like the logo.
I mean, if the chiefs agreed, we've heard from one of our counselors who's in this type of work that getting people to agree on a logo is hard to deal with. But if council wants to form a committee to look at logos and come to an agreement on it, I'm more than happy if someone wants to lead that direction.
See, my concern is it was sent to the fire chiefs. The chiefs are in charge of the department. And council agreed to everything. So this, we got a petition. It's putting council in an awkward position because we've already dealt with the matter and it was unanimous to stay with it. That's why I don't know why it's back on here.
Well, I'm sure the chiefs wouldn't have sent in a petition if they were happy with it, so it's.
That's kind of my thought. That's a lot of names on that piece.
Well, I don't think the chief signed it. It's the North and Matlock and Clandeboye Hall. I understand South Hall, even though it says all three, but South Hall, we're not even contacted on this.
Center.
Yeah, there's no South Hall members on.
Yeah, everybody on the petition is from the center or the north.
Okay, so then it's true, South Hall wasn't contacted at all.
But we've made a decision on this already.
Sure, I get. Fire department.
And when we get petitions, we can accept them as, we have to accept them as information. I'm assuming that's what's on.
I just don't understand, we don't take all of everybody in the fire department looks like signed it, so. Cause I think the saying, if you read the letter, it says it was more of the South Hall's existing logo without due representation of the North and Center Halls. Is what they're asking.
But the issue is all three chiefs who are in charge of the fire departments agreed to it. And then council all agreed to it unanimously.
Because we were told that the chiefs, so obviously the chiefs let this go through. I'm sure, you're saying the chiefs didn't know about these guys signing a petition? There's not that
I
kind of
never said
mutiny.
anything like that.
Give them the benefit of the doubt. It's hard to keep 30 guys happy.
We'll look at the discussion just for our small group of what it should be, but I maintain if the chiefs agreed, council agreed unanimously. We've got bigger issues dealing with this. So what does council want to do with this? Just keep it filed as information.
Get a letter from the three chiefs? We had verbal that the chiefs agreed to it. Let's get them in writing.
Or maybe contact Jordan or the safety officer,
Yeah, it's
see
Jordan.
what he has to say.
Or get it in writing. That's not a bad idea, right? Get an email from each of the chiefs that they like it. I'll go from there. That's a lot of names. Of a very important volunteer organization.
So if there was an event and the fire chief, directed everyone at an event to do something like an incident, but the group didn't want to do it, would they, we're not gonna follow the chief's direction?
I'm not a fireman, so I'm pretty sure that's all laid out in the regiment. I don't know, just a question. I don't want them to think that we didn't do anything about it.
Well, we file, the council accepts the petition. The chief's made a decision. Members aren't happy. Chief made a decision, which is his job. And that's why it's put council in an awkward position as well. Because we already unanimously dealt with this.
Well, in my understanding was, we were told this is what it's being used.
Well, no, we had samples of
No,
all
he
different
did-
ones and the
yeah.
chiefs picked one
Yeah.
they agreed with. It's okay, we'll move forward. Deputy Mayor Murray?
I guess at the end of the day, it's the fellows at the fire station who have to wear the logos and apparently they're not happy with the chief's decision on the logo, so.
That's right.
I heard that they're only showing one logo.
I heard
How
that.
can you decide on what logos you want if you're only showing one?
I know nothing.
I would lead to something, whatever the heck you want, to try and see if we can figure this out and make it a little bit better.
I think we should get someone from council to head a committee to do branding.
Branding for what? The fire
What we're
department.
talking about.
The fire department.
Yeah.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Slaker.
Second.
I'll second that.
Yeah, what the heck? I'll give it a try.
Just she was wrong with it. So why not?
I'll give it a try. Can't promise anything, but I'll try. The Bell Fire Department.
July and August committee of the whole meetings. Be it resolved that council hereby cancel the July 21st and August 18th committee of the whole meetings. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Dornbos, seconder. Councillor Feeblecorn, is there any comments? Councillor Dornbos, you brought this forward.
No comments.
I don't want to hear complaints when we have long council meetings.
Well, that's the whole thing, right? It makes the other meeting, especially
Oh,
when we've got
I
a
do
lot
have
of
a
stuff
comment.
going on right now.
Well, we will still continue to have special meetings,
Which is fine.
Zoom at lunch hour, whatever, too, because we have to approve the checklist.
I do have a comment. Since we're not having Cal meetings, is it still possible to get management reports sent to us on the 15th?
Oh, no, those are at the Cal meetings.
Okay,
You want Cal meetings canceled?
okay, because they are canceled.
So what's wrong with that idea though? When we do the committee reports, it takes 2 minutes on council. If anybody has any questions, they ask or they send in an email prior.
Well, Cal meetings of council are to be held in public, not by email. That is the purpose for all our committee
Well,
meetings.
you'll still get management. reports.
That's what I meant.
It just won't be on the Cal meeting.
Okay,
There's no Cal meeting, so we'll put it on the council meeting
Yeah,
after.
council meeting.
Oh,
okay,
okay.
all in
Yeah.
favor? Gary. Medical response service agreement. Be it resolved that Mayor will be authorized to sign the annual medical first response service agreement to allow the municipality to provide non-transporting emergency medical response as a licensed medical first response service on behalf of Shared Health. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Dornbos, seconder. Councillor Slaker, any comments or questions? All those in favor? Unanimous, that is carried. Petersfield wastewater lagoons facility. Be it resolved that tipping fee charges for septic haulers using the Petersfield wastewater facility to dispose of RM generated residential wastewater into the lagoon cells shall be increased to $60 per double axle septic truck starting July 1st, 2025. The tipping fee shall be increased to $90 per double axle septic truck starting on January 1st, 2026. And further be it resolved that the proposed rate increase is required to operate and maintain the lagoon facility in a fiscally responsible and sustainable manner while adhering to current financial accounting standards, and gives the RM the means to follow industry best practices to comply with all environmental and regulatory requirements. Could I have a mover, please? Counselor Slaker, seconder. Counselor Mondor, discussion, please. Counselor Dorn.
You want Peter?
Peter, you
Oh,
want to
sorry,
present?
Peter.
I have a presentation, quickly go through that,
Thank you, Peter.
shed some light on it.
Did you want to go over there?
Yeah, put you back.
Want me to come up there with you?
Sure. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. And then I don't know if you're thinking about that. Sure. Yeah.
You're right to the Zoom, you're still on the Zoom
Okay.
call? Yeah.
Question, is this for the landfill and Mermaid Beach as well? Dumping? Yes,
No, we have nothing on our agenda for one PD.
okay, because I have Big Mike come for me, and he told me yesterday that dumping fees were going up. That's it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
all right, I wanna oppose it. I have to pump out once a month, I can't afford $250.
Yeah, so the presentation is really just kind of an overview of what was in the request for decision. And so it just talks about the Petersburg Lagoon tipping fee review. Let's see if I can just change the. So we did excuse me. So we did looked at the bound ending in 2024. Before the Petersburg Lagoon expansion was started, we had a balance in 2022 of $1,056,000 in the reserves for the lagoon. And through that, we typically add a provision for $30,000 to be allocated from the tax base to the reserves. So we did that for 2023 and 2024. When construction started for the lagoon expansion, we ended up paying progress payments towards the completion of the lagoon project to the tune of $1,075,000. And then we ended up at the completion of construction, we ended up we ended up transferring to capital of $877,000 to Minister of Finance, which ended up with in a deficit. The RM within a deficit to pay for the remaining balance of the price of the lagoon, which was done in the form of a loan of $836,000 to pay back to the RM to the reserves. So the total project cost for the lagoon expansion was just under $4 million. Half the grant, half of the cost was covered by grant. The other half was taken from reserves. So left us with a shortfall of just $830,000, which cost us also $800,000 in interest over 20 years to cover for the cost of borrowing.
So the loan itself is for 836,000?
Correct.
Right. And so that what you were showing there, the amount including the interest we would pay over 20 years.
Yes.
I'm sorry, what was that figure again?
800,000.
836?
The loan is for $836,000 and I believe Carrie, it's over 20 years.
It's over 20 years, that's correct.
And did we hand out a chart for that?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I do have options as well, like with the detailed breakdown. So if you would like to see an option on.
Keep going and.
Yeah, so once you have the discussion, I can hand out whichever option that you want to discuss.
So, based on that, we looked at the operating costs, looked at the entire financial picture of what it would cost on an annual basis to pay off the loan and also put money back into the reserves. So the cost to operate is about, we estimate to be about $41,000. We increased it by consumer price index over 2.5% for 20 years. Covering a loan of $81,526 is the loan payment plus interest over 20 years. And to build up the reserves, we're putting $60,000 a year into the reserves over 20 years for a total expense of $184,000 a year over 20 years. So the goal is to build up our reserves to $1.2 million by 2045. So when we do the tipping fee analysis based on, we knew already that $30 a load, a double axle load was inadequate or to cover the current expenses. So what we ended up doing is Carrie ended up doing a sensitivity analysis to see what the break-even point is based on the different rates that we would charge to for tipping fees. So in this instance, we're showing tipping fees of 60, 80, 90, 120 to see where we would end up. So we're looking at comparing the income that we take from the tipping fees based on 2,000 loads, comparing it against the expenses which are fixed, and then looking at to see where the break-even point is. Hold on a second, go back one. So the break-even point, it turns up, it is about $90 a load for to charge at the rate to cover both the loan payment, repayment, and also the build up the reserves. If we end up going with something lower than that, it's not a sustainable model. We would always be in arrears. If we go more than $90 a load, we would be making money. We would be operating it faster. So the recommendation is really the tipping fee, to increase the tipping fee rate to $90 a load, starting January 2026. And then to counter rate shock, we suggest increasing the tipping fee to $60 per load, starting July 1.
So I believe at $60 a load, that would cover paying the loan and some operating costs.
Correct.
So to address a lower fee, you would have to put a lower amount in reserve or suspend putting money into the reserve for a couple of years. But we, at the very least, we need to repay our loan. And in a case like this, it would be a user pay. So unless council wants the whole community to pay for the lagoon costs. So we know there's a lot of pressure on that amount of $90. So you have the option of suspending the reserve for a couple of years until we could see how the through Peter's engineering experience and education, we could see what kind of chemicals are being used. It would tell us, he would have a better idea of a lifespan of a lagoon, because the lifespan of a lagoon we're using what Stantec recommended was 20 years. But Peter and I and Gary have done some research, and if the lagoon is operated properly, it could be up to 50 years. In the past, we haven't been paying attention to the lagoon with chemicals. There's enzymes that we put in there, and we don't know what we don't know, and we've never monitored in the lagoon. And I'll just let Peter speak briefly to this. Is we don't know what solids are going into the lagoon.
Right.
We know liquids, so the solids going into the lagoon, it causes a problem for lagoon life. And we have not monitored that all, and we're figuring out how we're going to monitor that. So my recommendation to council might, you have some choices. You can suspend putting into the reserve for a couple of years until we do this type of thing. But we know we need to pay we're having a payment for a loan, so that has to come from somewhere. And we have some operating costs that we have to deal with. So operating costs are in the form of chemicals, fuel to operate there, staff costs. So if our staff is spending 10 to 15% of their time at the lagoon needs to cover that.
Councillor Hunt?
What is your monthly payment?
For me?
What is the monthly payment? On the loan?
On the loan?
There's no monthly payment on the loan. The loan is paid annually.
Okay, annually. What's the annual payment?
It's $65,000. 65,734 and 76 cents.
65,000?
Yeah.
66 to 65,000.
I think I put that at 83.
Yeah, the 83 was from the Peter was not wrong. It was actually from the borrowing bylaw, but we actually got the loan at the payment a little bit cheaper.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was 65,734, and this is, I took the numbers right out of the borrowing bylaw. So that's exactly what
For
we're saying.
65,000 times, that is yearly?
That is annually, yeah.
I'm 20.
Yeah, well, times 20. We paid a couple of payments already, so we're a couple of payments in.
So 1.5 million.
Yeah.
Where do you, so like the CEO says, this has a 50-year lifespan if managed properly. And you just bought a $30,000 boat.
We'll see.
Okay, you just bought a $30,000 boat to check for solids.
Yes.
So you'll be able to do that monthly, week, whatever. So you'll be able to see. And that was the problem with the old lagoon. It wasn't closed down because of overusage. It was closed down because of lack of maintenance.
It wasn't managed properly.
100% not managed properly. And I have all the faith in you and your men that you're going to manage it above average. So in saying that, like people, I should show you Google Earth map. This new cell is 4 or 5 times larger than the present primary cell now.
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to manage it properly.
So just to speak of that, so a lot of the increase in the primary was to accommodate the additional, to accommodate 2 truckloads per day.
Okay, when you say 2 truckloads, you're talking septage. You're not
I'm talking solids.
22,000 liters per day of
Salt.
septage and 100,000 liters per day of holding of your holding tanks.
That's correct.
So that relates into 1,800 septic tanks we can do a year, as well as 5,300 loads of holding tanks. But we're not allowing that amount of septage to come in because you have a cutoff, imaginary line. Cut off.
We don't know what we're receiving. That's the problem we're having with.
We know what you're receiving because the haulers are being billed, so like they should be, and they were supposed to be saying if it's septic or if it's a septic tank, so that's 750 gallons is a septic tank.
We since I've been here, and I know what it said in the bylaw and all that stuff, and the procedures and all that. But the haulers, we've been using the honor system for haulers to tell us how much solid is coming in, because the solid is your kills your lagoon if you don't know that.
I understand.
And they have not been reporting that. And
we're going to make everybody pay money because a few of the septic haulers are dishonest then, or you're saying they're dishonest. So in saying that though, we have to open it up to more loads. And 90% of the stuff coming in from Petersfield, Clandeboye area is holding tanks.
How do you know that?
Because that's all there is in this area. That's all there is in this area.
Septic tanks.
There's septic tanks.
I was not allowed to put this in.
Everything
I have
on-
a septic field, I might just live a lost over here.
Everything along the creek is all holding tanks. And how often do you get your tank pumped? Once a year? Maybe 2 years?
Every 2 years.
Okay.
probably.
So every 2 years. So what I'm saying is we're not allowing enough loads to come in there to be spread out by enough people. You're worried about what it could be. Let's open it up. And then again, like the CEO says, let's see what it's going to be in 2 years. Like, let's go by the numbers. That's why we had to close the other one down, because it was two-thirds full of solids and the capacity. And then also what the lack of maintenance was too, those are gravity flow equalization. So you open up the primary, moves into the secondary. You open up the secondary, goes into the fingers, discharge into the wetland lagoon, which is a great lagoon system. But what was happening, the valve was shut off after the two levels equalized. Go in there and pump over, make use of our capacity. And that wasn't being done, The capital costs, like you say, $40,000 a year. Do you have a breakdown on that of what those costs are going to be, or is that just a number that?
Oh, that's mostly based on actuals from last year. Part of it's capital, most of it's operation costs, chemicals, and the other capital costs are monitoring cameras, stuff like that. That really we don't have enough there to enforce the number of loads that are dumped there, and there's other stuff in there as well.
So you also had mentioned there was a attached Stantec report from 2016. I've never seen that. It wasn't attached to your package.
Okay, I attached it to the email back to you. I should have been attached to this report, but it's in there. Yes.
So I'm just going to interject. The engineering from Stantec said your maximum loads are $2,000.
2,089, wasn't it?
Pardon me?
2,000 annually.
Annually.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that could be that, and that is the number.
So then we can't go full out. Let's bring more people in to use the lagoon. Until we know we're at 2,000 annually. So we have to use the 2,000 number.
But that's exactly right.
For revenue.
For septic tanks.
No. It's a combination of septic and.
But it doesn't jive with your numbers though. You're saying you're allowed 100,000 liters per day of domestic sewage, which is holding tanks.
Yes.
And you're allowed 22,000 liters of septage per day.
That's what the expansion is designed to.
Okay. So by taking those numbers though, and taking it, the liters to gallons of the trucks, what I had said, that gives you 5,300 loads per year.
The engineering report had the maximum number of loads the lagoon can handle. what I'm working on is to come up, to understand what the actual loading is in the lagoon, to see if it matches, to see where it lies in relation to the maximum loading that it's been designed for.
And I appreciate that. And that's what we have to
So
do.
once I know that, then I can gain confidence to say, yes, we can take on more, or no, it's at maximum. So it's kind of the next year or two will be to understand exactly how much the RM is generating and bringing to us to process.
Then let's make the septic haulers be more proactive and tell them where they're getting a load from. Like, don't.
But then don't you have to pay someone to sit there all the time? Like you're saying the honor?
In their reports, If it comes from a certain address, like I say, it's simple. They're giving them a bill. Like I say, used to do it all the time.
Who's gonna audit every single septic hauler bill that comes?
So hold on now. So in the report.
Why don't we charge them $100 everyone?
So in the report, we do require on a monthly basis for them to submit their monthly report. We get an address from them, and they also tell us what the amount of they're delivering and dumping into their disposing. What they're not telling us is they don't tell us how much solid or septic is coming into our lagoon. They don't know how much is being diluted. And so we don't know that until it's been placed in our.
Is that question in there though? Is that question in there? Like they're giving you the address, they're giving you where it's coming from, holding tank, septic tank.
Yes.
So if it's a holding tank, there's 1,500 gallons, and you know then it's
agreed.
A holding tank.
I'm not
And if it's
concerned.
750 gallons, then you know it's a septic tank.
But I'm not concerned about the holding tank. I'm concerned about the solids. The holding tank stuff, it's over designed for that. But based on the report and what the design engineer has sized the expanded lagoon is to accommodate 2 loads of solids a day. So that's kind of what I'm trying to.
Which is 22,000 liters, which is 3,000 gallon loads, which is 8 tanks.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, because a 750 gallon goes into a 3,000 gallon tank 4 times. So, and I understand that 2 loads per day, but at the same time, it's allowed 100,000 liters of domestic sewage.
It's septic.
Which equates back to that so many loads. I think 14 loads a day.
Yeah.
You know, and averaged out, that all comes to like I said, 5,300 loads. And you're at 2,000 loads. So, and we're going with Stantec. Okay, we're lots of faith in Stantec.
You and I.
Anyway,
You told me you didn't have faith.
anyway, I'm just saying, we need to, this needs to go back to the drawing board, and great job on the report, and I understand you're trying to do the right thing, but also the lagoon will last maybe 40 years with proper maintenance, which I know you're gonna do because you have the men and you have the equipment for it. So we just bought 3 or 2 fire trucks. We haven't started putting that back into that reserve. We won't be putting back fire money reserve for another 15 years. Because we know we don't need to bring that reserve back up to where it was now in 20 years. Because that lagoon is still gonna have 20 more years of lifespan.
We don't know that for sure,
Yeah, we
but
don't know that.
it ranges from 20 to 50 years. If taken care of properly, we know some lagoons have lasted or will last, they predict 50 years.
See, I will go and actually within the next couple of years, I'll be able to tell you, give a pretty good estimate of how long the lifespan of this lagoon is based on the incoming septage, whether we can expand it. The problem I have is that when you start talking about, we've emptied our bank account to pay for this thing. And so that is not a sustainable thing to say, we're gonna not put a reserve back to where they were.
In all fairness, though,
20 years, the 30 years, the 40 years.
In all fairness, though, and that's your job is to tell us that as that, but our job is to protect the taxpayer and give the taxpayer the benefit of the doubt.
Oh, I agree. I hear you.
So we just purchased a grader loan for it. We didn't put it on the taxes. Same thing with the fire trucks. We did the same thing.
Agreed.
So if we wanted to bring the reserve, if we wanted to pay for that grader, we wouldn't have had a tax decrease this year.
I know that Yes.
So you gotta put yourself in our shoes and try to help us out in your report and say, that's why I need to go back. And we need to know the number of what the loan is gonna take for the year and the maintenance costs. And we worry about replenishing the reserves, like the CEO says.
That information fair, Lori, and give what you.
I know, but give us the number.
One at a time. Counselor Slaker, you've had your hand up.
I understand what you're doing, Counselor Hunt, and I agree, like $1,000 a year more for getting pumped out, no, no. Do we not worry about the reserve for the next few years? I agree, we don't, I get it. But there has to be an increase, we have to make the payment, and you are not an engineer with Stantec or anything else. We are counselors that sit at this table. We must trust what information they go and get. So if they need 2 years to figure it out, how did the last 20 years no one cared for it? That's the question I would like to ask. How does that even happen? But there's no one to answer to that. So we put in a new thing, let's not screw it up in the first 5 years, so we gotta then put out money to fix it. Because you think it's gonna last 50 years. I hope it
Go
does.
look at it, go look at it. People should go look at it.
We are not.
Counselor, people
we
want to do a
not
tour of the RM.
For it
No.
here. That's not our professional background.
It doesn't matter. We should be sensible about
Going
it. We have to
looking
put
at the
up our hands.
lagoon isn't going to be able to tell you a bunch of laypersons that aren't experts in it. You come and look at the lagoon, none of us are gonna be, oh yeah, that's a 50-year lagoon.
If the increase is too high, I totally agree for the next, we can't dump it on people.
So what are the numbers for and I don't think $40,000.
Counselor Slaker has it.
I agree. The increase is too high. I would lose my apple if somebody said, I gotta come up with an extra $1,000 for this.
Counselor Peoplecorn, then you, Counselor Munder. Counselor Peoplecorn.
Yeah, I think this is beyond a rate shock with the increase that's being proposed. I also agree that we should be putting off for a couple years to get a better understanding as to what the appropriate rate should be. I 100% agree that the rate should not be 30 and it should be above that. That's a given. It's too bad this didn't start years ago, a gradual increase, but this is where we're at. We're going from the lowest in the region based on this chart here to the highest within 6 to 7 months. Again, I think that's completely unreasonable to put on the taxpayer or that is using the system. I'm just looking for a better, more, I don't know, long range that we can figure out this payment. I realize it's a loan, we have to pay it. I realize there's maintenance and I realize that we need to be proactive for when we need to do the next lagoon. But all those are undebatable. I understand that, but it's unreasonable to expect that type of an increase within that short of a time frame.
Madam Mayor, Harry, do you have any numbers without putting into the reserve?
I do. Peter and I did discuss that before. So I did a calculation that just took in the cost of the loan and the annual expenses and any capital purchases. So we're looking at roughly around $60 for the average cost for 5 years. To be the cost per load for 2,089 loads.
What's the total cost in dollars though?
The total cost in dollars in year 1 was 181,000. Year 2 was 106,000. 301, 401, 102 because we increased it a little bit.
Why does that come down?
Because we had $40,000 worth of capital purchases in 2025, expecting that maybe we might need to make some other large capital purchases next year due to any plans that we have made on maintenance this year for the lagoon.
But that should be advertised over 10 or 20 years. That's a trailer. So why would you capitalize that in 1 year?
It all depends on how we take the cost in. We could.
Because you paid for it, right?
We're paying for it, outright.
If you amortize it, who's paying the bill?
We're paying cash up front,
Yeah,
right?
we're paying cash up
we
front,
take
so
cash out of our bank. How are we getting that cash back in our bank? We're not gonna take that back over 10 years. We need to pay that back right away. Unless we're taking it out of, a special reserve fund or we're
But there's nothing in the reserve.
There's nothing in the reserve to take from at this point.
We could have added it to the loan.
we could make a loan out of it and then pay it off over another few years, but then we're getting into another loan situation.
Yes.
So then we're also in with another 6 or 7% interest cost as well per year. That's gonna cost us not much less than $60 per load per year.
Councillor Mondor?
Yes, hi, thanks for letting me speak to this. Looking at the rates from the other municipalities, we are, like Councillor Feeblecorn suggested, we are one of the lowest rates. I do think we need to increase the rates. The proposal here is a 20-year payoff of the loan. I think that is the most feasible given the options. South St. Andrews residents had to pay for the low flow sewer system in a time frame that was 20 years. And it was quite a rate shock to all the people of South St. Andrews, and it's still a bitter pill, but we have all swallowed it and have paid for it. The lagoon is costing money all the time. We have spent a lot of money on the lagoon this year, a couple of $100,000 plus the loan payout, and I think it's pertinent that the RM doesn't carry this loan over for more than 20 years. If we increase loads coming to the lagoon, like Councillor Hunt has suggested, that might pay it off sooner. But we don't have any, I guess, data on that. Another caveat of that would be if we increase home development in the area to increase the loads, that could decrease that as well. But there's nothing to suggest that that's going to take place in the next umpteen years. So I think we need to take the recommendation of our learned friend here and go with the suggestion.
Deputy Mayor Markey?
Yes, thanks very much for your presentation. The way I look at it is in terms of paying back or paying back the loan, we should be doing that. There's no question about that. In terms of putting money into the reserve, why don't we just wait for perhaps 2 years? Take a look at where we're at, and in 2 years, then reevaluate the situation and then perhaps start paying the reserves. That would take some of the burden off of this $90 rate increase.
Councillor?
So the way I figure, you say $65,000 you pay out the loan, and I think probably 40 is high, so $35,000. That's $100,000 a year. Divided by your 2,000 loads, that's $50. So when you do that for 2 years, you talk about sticker shock and that, like that's well, first of all, your sticker shock was when you had the wrong size of truck. It was like real sticker shock. That was $180 a load then for a tandem truck.
Yeah.
And that's where I took all the flack, and you have
Yes.
to be more careful when you send information out that is correct, because, and that's why I asked, send it to council first so we can review that. My arm's not long enough to hold the phone with the amount of calls I had over the weekend. And that's the truth. So in
Appreciate
saying
that.
that,
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, and like, again, good job, but I would like to see that $50 and look at it in a year, and that still covers the cost. And I agree, the rates have to get up there. A lot of these other municipalities, the rates are included. They're also chemical. They're also treatment plant rates, you know, and so anyway, so like I say, but you got to get that handle on that their usage, because the report says, I know you're hanging your hat on that 2 loads per day of septage, but where does the domestic sewage come in? Like,
yeah,
your 2 loads a day is the septage of 22,000 liters.
That's correct.
2 11,000 liter trucks.
Yes.
But you also have per day about 100,000 liters.
The way I look at all that is really, yeah, the report says something. It gives you the maximum capacity this facility can take, and then of course there's a safety factor in there, like any engineer would do, to make sure that they're comfortable with the numbers. For me, I've accepted this facility So it's up to me now to understand what actually can happen, what actually the facility can take. Whether it debunks the report, or if it can take more than that, or whether yes, it is in fact 2,000 loads and that's it. And so based on that, once I'm confident with that, then we can have other discussions about potentially expanding the area or not, right?
I'd
So
love to get in a situation where we could take
I know.
4,000 loads a year and reduce that number.
I know, but part of your report backs that up and part of it doesn't. Like you say, you're hanging your hat on that 2 loads per day. But I think we need a better clarification from like Stantec, because even when we were building it, I asked, can we build it bigger to accept all of St. Andrews? And the answer was no. Well, I've been to FCM in Regina, where all of Regina is on a lagoon system.
I've asked the same question. They're saying you need more land to build new more cells in order to handle that.
I don't know if our lagoon is comparable to Regina's.
No, I know, but they said it couldn't be done, is what I'm saying to them. Stantec said it couldn't be done. Well, they said you couldn't send a man to the moon either, which is neither here nor there, but if I'm going off track, but I exaggerate for clarification.
I just wanted to say, thanks, Peter, for this. When I looked at this the first time, I was like, whoa, like this is quite something. Then again, I was thinking back, why wasn't there enough foresight over the last 10 years to have an actual 10 to 15% increase on your tipping fees on a year-to-year basis, so this doesn't come as a massive sticker shock and people can budget for having their tanks pumped out. So I do agree it needs to be increased, but I was quite surprised that there's 100% increase on the first one and then another 50% on the second one, or if you want to go 300% total, that's significant. Like that is just absolutely significant. So
when we were discussing this internally, the rate hike, that exact topic that came up was rate hike should be looked at, reviewed every couple of years to make sure that it is. And I think this is kind of a big chunk to kind of make up for the incremental rate hikes, right?
When was there last time was there an increase?
Pardon?
When was the last time there was an increase?
I don't know. At 29?
Never, because it started at $30 per load. But don't say that's a bad thing, because there was no plan back then of what to do with the tipping fee.
So you're talking 1996?
No, it wasn't when the lagoon was built. So I'm figuring maybe 15 years ago.
Wow.
But there was no plan of what you're collecting a levy for. So if you say to people, we're collecting a levy, well, for what? Well, I don't know, we're just collecting it.
Yes.
You know there has to be maintenance
Okay,
costs to
well,
that.
we've got the full history that then got back prior to.
So it's no one's fault why we haven't had an increase. It's just that we never had a plan until 2 years ago.
Councillor Eagle.
So based on the discussions here, can we still maintain this goal of paying off the loan and having a 2-year kind of pause and up the fees by $50 for the 2 years and then reevaluate and see whether or not that increase needs to go up higher? Like I think 60 is high to go from 30 to 60, from 30 to 90.
So can we get Kerry to clarify financially? So right now we're paying 30. What would the increase be to pay the loan and the capital cost? What would the bill pay be per load?
$60 per load. And I want to stress the fact that we did a lot of estimating numbers here. We have not yet allocated wages from like Peter's area. They're not allocated to any of the utilities or the lagoon. So we're not even taking into wage costs in here. And when I'm done the financial analysis and going into next year, we're going to have a better budget that's going to factor in wage costs into those areas. And when that happens, our costs might be up a lot higher. So if you say you want to go $50 and be conservative, that's fine. But I think $60 is conservative. And if you want to hold it at that for 2 years, I think that that's sustainable for us financially. But if we do it late, if we do it any lower, we're going to be losing money as an RM and the people are going to be paying the bill.
So on the sheet here, the last page, if you go the rating $60, we'll be in a loss situation of 60,426.
That's
that's with the reserve. I've taken the reserve amount out and I did another calculation just before the meeting and came up with a $60. So I can prove that the $60 will work with us. And like I said, that's not even including any labor costs or wage costs into it. That's not including the people that Peter has going out there, all the testing that he has to do, all the chemicals that he's adding. I'm not allocating any of their time that they're spending out there yet to these costs. And the costs might be a lot higher next year when we come back and sit down at this table.
Well, we may have to make a policy decision from council,
Mhm.
you know, that staff time isn't allocated. You know, it's all part of
Exactly.
an RM situation.
That's what I was gonna say,
It
yeah.
could be.
It's unfair to make those comments that's saying, like, you don't split up your time and your time to different, I know you do on some developments, but
Well,
you get paid for it by the municipality.
but if you were
You know?
to do if you were to go to PUB, so a public utility board, if you were to go to a public utility board, they would say you should be allocating the costs of where the people are going, right?
So we are allocating about
And-
20%.
We're not, I don't believe we're allocating to the LID right now, so Peter has two people working for it. And basically, they're either at the LID or they're doing lagoon work. And, you know, those salaries are, let me just pull a number out, 100,000 a year. People that don't use the lagoon or don't use the LID are paying for that, right? And really, that's their job, what they're
Yeah.
doing. So it will be a policy decision.
So saying that, I still think the 50 is fair for 1 year, do it for 1 year even, because it's gonna cover the $65,000 for the loan payment and $35,000 for the thing, so.
It sounds more like 60 to 65 would cover that. I don't think it's 50.
Yeah.
Well, I would recommend, because I would recommend from the CAO's desk, because there's a rate shock here, to do the $50 for the year. And then to come back to council and then discuss further how we're going to address it.
Thank you.
And we may come back and say, we want to hold the $50 for year 2 and 3 until people can get used to it. And then say, you know, maybe have a 10-year picture of where the rates are going to
And by
go.
that time, you'll know your numbers too. And that can be increased, the numbers of loads coming in. And I think you need to talk to Stantec seriously about that 2 loads per day.
We're working with another engineer,
Thank you.
was
I remember
the former mayor of Morris,
in Otech or
Gavin?
Gavin,
yes.
Gavin. So
Yeah.
Gavin is a specialist with the
Specialist of that.
around the province. So we've been bringing him in and he's been giving us, he's done a large number of lagoons and maintenance on them. And he's been giving us advice, but we're just starting out and Peter's just learning. We're getting advice on how to run it better, how to be more effective, how to be more efficient. There's chemicals, they call them enzymes, that they use indoors at the city of Winnipeg, other lagoons use, and they actually eat the solid waste. So if you could keep these enzymes living,
Organisms.
they'll eat the solid waste and then we'll have more room in the lagoon. As best I could say that on layman's terms. right?
Dick Menon used to sell that stuff. Dick Menon was part of that project.
Well, I think that I would be okay with the $50, but only for a year, and here's why. Because as you're saying, next year when we redo the budget, there's a potential that this is still gonna have to go up. So it's sticker shock, as you call it, yeah, I get that. Let's go for 1 year at the 50. That's losing money, we're not paying the full payment on the loan.
Yeah, we are. We're just not maybe covering some of the costs, which I think are on the high side anyway.
But that's not for you're a counselor. You're not the sewer expert. You're not the bank expert. You're not any of that. We can't keep erring on the side of everything's gonna be good. We obviously did that for 20 years and no one looked after the damn lagoon. So let's try and get it right this
So
time.
don't penalize the past though. Like I said, let's live for the future. Let's forget about the
We
past.
must learn from the past.
But I think 2 years it gives Peter a handle on getting the
1
numbers.
year. 1 year.
Okay.
I'm on the 1 year. I don't care what
Okay.
the rest of you are.
Council
Good.
Wonder, you have your hand up?
Well, I think we should be taking Peter's advice here and his cohort and paying at least what they suggest. I think it should be $60 to $65. We're still in line with the other municipalities around the area. We're still undercutting St. Clements at $65 or $60, and we're being more financially sustainable at that amount. I know it's a rate shock, but you know what? Sometimes we have to make these hard decisions to pay for things in a timely manner. You know what? I don't want us to be in the same boat in a year or 2 or 3 years down the road and be in arrears. We need to address this now. We're not going to address this by paying $50 only for a number of years. I think that's ludicrous. I think we need to start paying for this and paying for it in a pertinent manner.
Peter?
Just bear in mind that when we compared the current rates, for example, St. Clement is warned us as well that they're reviewing their rates. So whatever their rate is right now, that's not where it's staying, right? It's going to be going up as well.
No bearing on this conversation.
So I want to add on to what Peter said. When we were doing a lot of our analysis, a lot of them do charge additional costs, like upfront costs, like, you know, how much they're dumping, or initial charges or registration fees. If you let your registration lapse, you have to re-register, you know, stuff like that. So there's lots of fees, and those are really large. You know, they're not small fees. They're not like $50. They're like $125, $285 to do that sort of thing. So there's a lot of additional fees in there.
And that's a good
Other
point.
arms.
But I also want to you know, on all the different sides of the story here, we also have to remember that we have a number of people in business and companies that are in business that are operating out of St. Andrews. And, you know, we'd only be responsible to want them to continue to be able to do business, right? So when we talk about sticker shock, it's not just for residents, we have enterprises out there, people making a living doing this, and we have to make sure that we don't make a radical decision that puts them out of business, and we have to get data, and we have to keep this reasonable.
Councillor Hunt?
And thank you for that. That's what I get from the haulers, is they can't put up their prices because of the cost of tipping fees. So we have to be reasonable. And I understand you doing your job, but we have to do our job. And your job is to give us.
I'm just here to provide you all the information that I gather. You are like the decision makers.
The other thing is, you know, we had it with mattresses. I argued we wanted to charge $50 for disposing a mattress. Where do we find them? Up and down the roads. We might as well charge $20 for them. Because if we charge 50,
Okay,
but I'm saying it's the thing, what's gonna happen? The garden hose is gonna go into the tank and it's going to go into the ditch or into the creek or into the river.
well, then that's another thing the bylaw will have to deal with.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I guess at the end of the day, the way I view this, my recommendation would be, okay, tipping fee, $60. We'll keep that for whatever the council chooses, either 1 year, 18 months, or 2 years. And in the meantime, Peter can gather more statistics on it, and we can review it and take it from there. But I think we're lacking a little bit of, a lot of information from Peter. He's doing a fine job, but we just don't have that information available right now. You know, the thing has to grow. It has to find its legs, and once it does, we'll be in a better position to make these financial decisions. And again, what our CAO said, $50. We've got individuals that are, you know, making a living, and the septic haulers, and we can't, or we shouldn't, you know, increase the rates to $90 that was originally recommended. So that's my proposal.
Councillor Hubercorn?
To just reiterate on that sticker shock, we'll have to keep in mind that there are hundreds of residents that pump monthly.
Yes.
This isn't just a once a year $60 increase for them. This is over $1,000 a year extra that residents are not having to pay. So I'm okay just Yeah, some are 3 weeks, right? So like it varies. Some are twice a month, right? So
2 weeks.
Sorry, could we have order?
I would like to see we try the $50 increase for the first year and then see where things go from there.
It's not a $50
Oh, sorry.
increase, just to clarify.
$20 increase.
30 to 50.
30 to 50.
If we.
Yes.
So
And then what would we be, will that cover paying off the loan?
That, as per my calculations, no, at $60 it will, at $50.
$65,000 a year. We're gonna generate $100,000 from the typical.
Well, over
$50.
5 years, my average cost over 5 years.
I know.
This.
Okay, anyway,
You know,
What I've
keep in
calculated.
mind, there's, I know, people on Southwood Road have told me with the holding tank, they're paying $500-600 a month.
There's also people in Denard that pay $500 or $600 on their per yearly and get pumped out every week.
Counselor Hutch?
so in saying that, let's do the 50 for 1 year. It covers the loan. It has to be, people have to understand we have to pay that loan back. We got a $4 million lagoon for $800,000. That's what we got. So I think the past council and this council has done pretty good to get a $4 million lagoon for $800,000 that the people that use it have to pay for it.
We had to pay $2 million.
I know, but we had money in reserve, so we had the foresight to get the
That
money
was
in
our money,
reserve.
that wasn't.
No, I know,
That was the residents' money.
but we had the money, so I'm talking about the foresight. So the $50 is gonna cover the 1 year of the loan. That's the main thing. It's gonna go up $10 a person per tank. So, and like I say, then we'll review it in 1 year. You'll have more numbers. We're gonna get an independent person for the numbers and that, and it's the best we can do on a, pardon the pun, but a poopy situation.
So my question is, so then we're gonna be in the hole and $50 to cover the loan.
We are.
Well, that's the loan and operating costs.
That would be the loan and operating costs.
So we covered the
Okay,
loan.
so when does that, my concern is to cover the loan so that we're not.
Well, the loan
residents
cost
aren't
comes out
covering any more
once
fees.
a year at the end of the year, and we always make the payment in full from the general fund
So-
regardless.
So what is that payment? And we're going to divide it by 2,000, the number that we're using.
Okay, I can do that right now. Just that payment,
But if you,
Not counting operating.
but if you defer your loan, if you
it'll
defer.
be $33.
Okay, and then there's operating
There's
costs.
operating costs. And for this year, we budgeted 75,500 for operating costs.
Yeah, because we had capital.
For the capitals.
Yeah.
So in answer to the mayor, the $50 will cover the loan.
Yes. Moving it up to $50,
Yes.
not adding.
It will
another
cover
50.
the loan, but it won't cover all of the operating costs, correct?
But we don't have a handle on operating costs yet either, so.
Well, okay, yes.
Well, we,
Okay.
but we, it's based on what our budget is. It's not based on what we think that it will be.
But
So we've set a budget for this year, and based on our budget for this year and also the increases that we propose over the next 5 years, based on having a CPI of 2.5%, that is what I've calculated.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Counselor Snipe,
No.
one more comment.
No,
then we
I
can
got
move
nothing.
forward.
Go.
Okay, so then how are we amending this? Be it resolved that tipping fees, charges for septic haulers shall be increased to $50
Yeah.
from
For a
60
period of 1 year.
For 1 year.
30.
So the 1 year, so the July 1st.
for double axle septic starting July 1st, 2025.
That's not much time for anybody to get a hold of that either. Like, I mean, that's what, 10 days?
It's $10 a pump out more.
Yeah,
$10.
I know, but how do you get it? We never got notice of this meeting or anything that was going on. It just sort of blew on Facebook
Well,
2 days ago.
we
Now, how are we
met,
gonna get to everybody to say that you're additional?
we met with the septic haulers at the start of the year
Yes.
and
They all knew.
had an
Yeah.
information session.
They're aware.
But, you know, in that case, I think,
It's
that's a
not
valid point. We could go August 1st. Because
Okay,
there's gonna be billing changes, et cetera.
So then starting August, shall be increased to $50 per double axle septic truck starting August 1st, 2025.
For 1 year.
So then we remove the tipping fee shall be increased by $90 per double starting January 1st, 26.
Yes.
We'll take that
No.
out and add in for a period of 1 year, so that'll be August 1st, 2026. Or no, just for a period of 1 year.
Yeah.
The rest is just what the reason is, which is okay. So we had a mover of Counselor Slaker, seconder Counselor Mondor. You're okay with the amendment?
I'd like to see it higher.
Yeah, but, okay. But the majority of council has agreed to the 50. So then we'll take the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Counselor Mondor opposed. Okay, that matters, carries.
And how long is that 15 for? Is that a year, 2 years? 1 year doing?
1 year.
1 year?
Okay, next item. King Andrews withdrawal from the capital plan.
Okay, I'll take it.
Resolved that the council of the Arm of St. Andrews invoke clause 10.2 of Bill 4 and request that the minister of municipal withdraw the rural municipality of St. Andrews from the capital planning region. And further that council authorized the chief administrative officer to enter into negotiations with the capital planning region regarding fair division of assets and equitable allocation of the rights and property debts, obligations, and liabilities of the planning region as per section 10.19 sub 2 of the Planning Act. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Dornbos, seconder. Deputy Mayor Marecki. Now, before we start, I should let everyone know I got a phone call and a text from the executive director to let everyone know that the board, not board, I think the executive or the exec director are setting up meetings to come to all member municipalities. So I'm just letting you know that if you wanted to put this over or you want to deal with this matter tonight. Councilor.
I think we owe it to ourselves. Most of you new to that part of the CPR, the capital region. And like I said, about our own planning region and owe it to them to explain to us. And I think there's some questions I have, we all have, you know. I don't think it's got much life left in it neither, but I think we owe it to ourselves to look at that and see. When will it be?
Councilor.
Well, I don't disagree, but I'd be one of the first ones to say that, I think we should get out of this. We were able to get out of it now.
Yeah.
If we continue on, after the October 2026 date, then you can't get out of it.
Oh, I
We have
agree.
10 years.
I agree.
So, but I do respect what you say, that maybe we need to just wait for a second and just see. That's just
And what are we waiting?
Maybe we what?
to hear what they have to say. If they're gonna walk around, if they're gonna come around and say something.
Oh, what
Maybe there's
does-
something that changes. I have no idea. But at the way it is right now, nothing changes.
The date, since Bill 4 was passed,
Yeah.
it just reaffirmed the date that we can withdraw in this manner to apply to the minister remains unchanged to the date before the next election. And that,
Well, then maybe.
after that, then there would have to be, you have to go through planning hearings and everything else that any council can, if there's majority of the council wants to opt in, then they can.
Maybe we be proactive and be the RM that does it.
I don't know.
Yes, Robert?
Yeah, my comment was, I think we should just put it over for a month or so and see what happens. To see what happens.
What's gonna happen?
So we have, the latest we can do it officially without
14 months.
Is till the day before the next election in 2026.
when were they planning to come around and present?
Well, that's what they want to set up a schedule, but after last meeting, like. The executive director's working on the bylaws to amend the bylaws because. It was all to do with the election. Like, we don't have an executive right now to resign. So. We have to give a bylaw for second and third readings, so would we resume our meetings in September? By that time, there will have to be a first reading. And then the month after, they might change, maybe we'll have it just assume to pass it through because we don't have any executive.
Am I correct on the understanding that if we opt out now and things change down the road and this turns out this is something that we should be looking at, then we can opt
We
back
can
in?
opt back in. Counselor Slack, did you have?
I think that, I understand your planning board thing. I do agree with that, but I do think anybody that's planning to run for next election, I would be getting out of this thing now. If this is just gonna start to heat up.
None of us should worry about what the next election looks like.
Counselor Mondor, do you have any comments?
I think I agree with Councillor Hunt. I think we should wait and have the presentation presented to us in council and go from there. I don't think it's a pressing issue. We have some time, and let's listen to the presentation.
No, they're waiting to hear, they're setting up a schedule. But right now we're in a dilemma because there's no meetings in July and August. And normally the executive director, I'm assuming where the chair would come and somebody from the executive, but we don't have executive. That's right.
And by that time, we can talk to our planning partner. Like I say, I think that's very important. That's the most important thing in this whole thing. Because the bill was set up for the purpose of CPR, of community planning region.
That's exactly right.
So we should give it that least of that doubt. And like I say, we're gonna be partnering with one, we partner with one on sewer, we partner with one on water, trails and everything else. Like I say, there's no drop dead date for this. There's no monetary loss. There's no monetary gain. This is a knee-jerk reaction, I think, and I understand some people maybe have some bad feelings about it and some bad information. And I'd be the first one to put my hand up and say, yeah, going to those meetings and the people we had here about the plan and that, it was just ridiculous. You know, about the 2 hearings they had, one they had to cancel and that. So
Well, it's resetting the plan. That's the whole purpose. The province has tasked this Winnipeg Metro Board to reset the plan. So that's what the discussion is about. I sent to council about the 27 questions that need answered. It's a lot of it are the same questions that were needed. Plan, only it's going to be in more simplified language.
then simplified gives us those questions. You know, we all have the same questions, and that's what we think we need to be answered. What is that going to be your mandate? What level of priority is that going to be on your radar? I just think for 2 months of waiting and get what the information is I'll be voting against this. If that's the case.
I don't know, were there some changes with elected officials at the last meeting? I don't know if I heard that. I don't know if that was in camera at the planning meeting.
No, it's all, no. Okay, so what happened? It was elections. Well, it was, one of the mayors brought it up. We have bylaws. The bylaw was not followed as to how the election was to be done, and there was not enough notices given to the members. So it started with Reed Bratter wanted, like the elections are supposed to happen at the AGM. But then with all this Niverville and all this group and all the protest groups and that, it was agreed months ago that the existing executive would stay on. And the AGM then was held last week for elections. But the proper process and all was not followed. So Reed Browder said, well, the way the bylaw reads, elections can only happen once a year at the AGM. So he said, I am not prepared to stay on another year. So then he wrote out on a paper, he resigned immediately. So then Scott Gillingham, Winnipeg, wanted, because it was a simple matter, like it wasn't a great matter of importance, because they had already picked in, we sent in our nominations and the positions were filled. But because process wasn't followed, that was the big issue, which is true, should have been. So then Scott Gillingham put forward a motion that we suspend the bylaw for this section for this meeting only. Well, that costs more, because never heard of that. So then he rescinded the motion. He took it back. And then that's when Scott Gillingham wrote on a piece of paper, I hereby resign effective immediately.
So there's not much left of it then, or?
No, that's just the executive.
But you need an executive.
So
They're still on the board.
they're still on the board. There's just no executive. There's one member, Mayor Campbell, was staying on. The other 2 were new that were nominated, that accepted the nomination. See, and there was only Mayor Feeblecorn stayed on, and then there was 2 new.
And
And
the
plus
mayor of
Scott-
Winnipeg was gonna be one of those new people.
He is, it's mandatory that the mayor of Winnipeg
Oh.
is chair on the board. That's mandatory, that's always been like that. So, there's basically, not, Debbie Feeblecorn's the only one left.
Who's the chair of the board?
Michael Moore,
Right, not the mayor of Winnipeg.
well, of the executive,
Oh.
of the executive.
Okay,
So there has to be on the executive,
right, has to be.
mayor of Winnipeg, and then what other mayor?
But if the mayor of Winnipeg
They're all-
resigned, where does that leave you?
Well, we've only got Debbie Feeblecorn.
Okay,
Because the new ones can't be appointed because the bylaw was never followed for the election.
but if I understood, you said the mayor of Winnipeg always must be on the executive.
Yes, but he's resigned.
But he's resigned, so
But he'll
your
come
whole
back on.
executive.
Oh, he'll come back on
I thought
once
you
the
meant like
bylaws
he just
amended in
walked away.
September.
A bit of a crap show.
So is it worth saying, if we don't hear anything by such and such date, that we will be opting out at that time, but if that gives them time to present? No,
No, that doesn't matter. Some said, because that came up, at the meeting, it doesn't matter which one, I can't remember, because there's 18 of us there. Said, well, it doesn't matter if you come and present to council or not, like, the majority of their council are against staying in it, so it doesn't matter
And who's that?
what they present. I can't remember which one said, I think there was another, there's a lot that board members are in it, we're in a bad position. Because we could favor it, but entire councils are against, majority of councils are against.
I know.
So we're in a very bad position.
Why?
One.
Why
But
would
as
that?
the board, we're supposed to, for me, the mayors and reeves are in a bad position.
Again, I not,
So I don't know if council feels, them coming to present is going to make any change. I know this, I believe I was told this is on West St. Paul's agenda tonight, and I don't know, is East St. Paul's agenda?
East St. Paul's discussing it, I don't know, they're.
at least we'll have questions answered that we can, like I say, make a proper decision.
What
on that.
else are you looking for that you didn't get when we went to the lake?
Is it gonna affect our planning district? How is that gonna affect our planning district?
It's what I think to do with Red River.
I know it doesn't
does
have nothing to do
do
with Red River planning, but it has to do with our other three
There's
partners.
that capital region
You know,
planning, that's what's
You
part
know,
of it.
so this is what part of it is, and
That is
take
a
Red
big
River
part
out
of it.
of the picture. Is it gonna affect granting? Is it gonna affect us working with partnerships and granting?
But he already
No.
said that.
How do you know?
The province is not, the province wants votes too provincially, federally, they're not gonna say, oh, you're not.
I don't know what you're scared about letting it go for.
You don't
another month.
belong to Pathbridge, so you don't get any money. That's never gonna happen. That's a threat we put forward, some are really not, but that. Do you wanna put this over, or do you wanna vote on it tonight?
We can both vote, and if it's defeated, then we're staying, right?
Or do we just table it till we? Because Jennifer, the executive director, said, let me know, because then they're going to everybody to set up dates to appear before council.
I don't know if it's gonna change my mind, but if rest of
I know
council-
it's not going to
if the rest of
change.
council's okay with waiting, then I'm okay with waiting, and that's. fine.
So then we can just table this.
Sure.
I'll get ahold of the executive director, we'll pick a date in September probably.
Good.
Well, because we're not having any meter. We only got one meeting. They might be
Why
one
not?
per month, one per month. So that's two, one per month. That's for the summer. We got one meeting in July, one meeting in August.
Planning.
Oh, plan.
Yeah.
But we have 2 council meetings each. We're just dropping the count meeting.
No, we're dropping the
We always
council
drop
meetings
the,
in July.
that's in
and
our
August.
bylaw.
We only have one council meeting a month in July and August.
That's in our org bylaw.
Wow,
Mm-hmm.
you really milked that out, holy crap. And we all still
So
get
it could
paid.
be for September, because they've got 18 or, well, somebody will know 17. Some are dropping off, so we'll just table this. Table, and then I'll let it know when she's setting up the schedule. Okay, 12.5 development agreement S 243059 Barkman. Whereas the developer is required to enter into a development agreement with the municipality as a condition of approval for subdivision number S 243059. And whereas the development agreement has been prepared to include the items deemed necessary by the municipality, including an engineered lot grade and swale berm design plan, servicing of each lot by an approved holding tank system, and any other standard deemed necessary by the municipality. Therefore, be it resolved that the Arm of St. Andrews authorized signing of the development agreement with Dwight Allen Barkman and Brenda Marie Barkman upon payment of any development and administrative charges. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Dornbos, seconder. Councillor Slaker. Any questions? This is standard development. Any kind of questions by council?
I can speak briefly to this if
Oh.
you like. I'll keep it
Very
brief.
brief.
It's just up the road, a couple hundred feet north of our office, a simple one lot split. We've had the development agreement because there was an existing drainage plan for the subdivision, so we just had to look at it with Public Works. The berm design that was kept for the existing lots has now been incorporated for the lot split. So it's all in line with the drainage plan, no concerns. This is all that's left to satisfy their conditional approval.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Thank you. All in favor? That is unanimously carried. Development agreement S 243057 Heatherdale. Whereas the developer is required to enter into a development agreement with the municipality as a condition of approval for subdivision number S 243057. And whereas the development agreement has been prepared to include the items deemed necessary by the municipality, including an engineered lot grade and drainage plan that ensures stormwater management, post-development water runoff is equal to or less than pre-development, an engineered road plan, signage plan, dedication of public road lands and lands for municipal services, dedication of public reserve lands not exceeding 10% subject land or payments in lieu, timing of road construction, and any other standard deemed necessary by the municipality. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Arm of St. Andrews authorized signing of a development agreement with Heatherdale Developments, Inc. upon payment of any development and administrative charges. Could I have a mover, please? Deputy Mayor Marecki, seconder, Councillor Slaker. Brian, did you wish to speak to this?
Yeah, this one's a little bit more involved. This is the final phase for the Heatherdale Kamani Estates subdivision. So it creates 7 new lots, closing out that entire phase. The road that's being constructed will intersect with Donald Road and Marecki Road, forming a 4-way intersection, but Donald is still a thoroughfare. That's essentially it. All the other requirements of the developer have been included into the development agreement draft. This, I believe, is their final condition as well for approval at Red River Planning to issue and register at land titles. Separate from this agreement, the developer has indicated that there's a very small sliver of land that's being created from the subdivision that they don't have a use for, but it wasn't being dedicated as public reserve. They've requested, or they've let us know that they have no interest in the land and would transfer it to us for $1. So I've said yes, of course. They'd like to put their sign advertising the subdivision at the entranceway of that, but that was already included in the signage plan, so no concerns for that. But the land transfer will come before council separately. It's totally outside of this agreement.
Well done. Thank you. Okay, all in favor? Unanimous, that is carried. St. Andrews Airport request for funding. Be it resolved that the Council of the Arm of St. Andrews authorize administration to proceed with the necessary notice and public hearing to allow for the withdrawal of funds from the St. Andrews Airport Reserve to the St. Andrews Airport in the amount of $149,500 for capital purchases and improvements at the airport. And further that the 2024 audited financial statements have been received and that the annual operating grant in the amount of $47,850 for 2025 be paid to the St. Andrews Airport. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Feeble-Corn, seconded by Deputy Mayor Marecki. Is anyone speaking to this? Any comments? I think it just stand.
Yeah, sounds good.
All in favor? Council Water, good. Okay, that is unanimous. It is carried. Next item is in camera. Be it resolved, the council move in camera at 8:16 PM to discuss matters that are in preliminary stages and respecting which discussion in public could prejudice the municipality's ability to carry out its activities or negotiations, as well as legal and personnel issues. And be it further resolved that the members of council agree to keep in confidence a matter that is discussed at a meeting that is closed to the public under subsection 152(3), and that the committee decides to keep confidential until the matter is discussed at a meeting of the council or of a committee conducted in public. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Schleicher, seconder. Councillor Dornbos, all in favor? That matter is carried. We are now in camera. Thank you. Okay, we're out of in camera. Resume the meeting at 9:10 PM. Be it resolved the council move out in camera at 9:10 PM. Sir, could I have a mover, please? Councillor Schleicher, Councillor Monder, seconds. All in favor? Carried. We have no resolutions from in camera. So be it resolved that the council meeting be adjourned at 9:10 PM. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Dornbos, seconder. Deputy Mayor Marecki, all in favor? Thank you. That is carried. And good evening, everyone.